like to call the meeting to order at 6:01. And I'd like to share our vision and mission. Every student receives engaging and challenging learning experiences to reach their greatest potential and thrive in a diverse global society. And the mission is delivers an exceptional, engaging, equitable, and collaborative learning opportunity for all students. And I'd like to report out final action in closed session. We actually had 3 certificated leave of absences. One was approved unanimously. The second was approved pending district's ability to fill the balance of the position, and that was also a 5-0 vote. And the third was tabled to next month, and one trustee had recused themselves for that discussion. We also had another action during closed, which we adopted a resolution to release temporary certificated employees during closed. So we authorized the district superintendent to notify 2 temporary certificated employees, which is a 1.6 position pursuant to Ed Code Section 44954B, that will not be reemployed for the 2022-23 school year. And oftentimes in education, we hire temporary employees and they have a temporary contract and we have to formally release them, but then we, most likely have an opportunity to rehire for next year. So that's this kind of situation. And do we have approval of the agenda? Is there anything that needs to be moved or tabled?
Do we need to move your 8.2.1, or you're going to do the report and then Dawn will be later?
Don is hopeful that he will be here. If you're okay with holding that, if he's late and moving it, if we
Okay.
can have that flexibility tonight, that
Sure.
we'll do that report when Don arrives. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Jerry, thank you. And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Seeing no opposed, so moved. And we, our next on agenda is public comment of non-agenda items. So before we take any non-agenda item public comment, I will read the in-person and the virtual public disclosures. So individuals may address the board on agenda items on regular session agenda during public comment and or at the time they are considered by completing the speaker form provided on the table at the entrance and submitting it to Renee. Public comment are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Speakers will be chosen in random order. Each person may only speak once per topic and is required to address the board from the podium. Public comment cannot be acted upon or discussed by the board unless placed on an agenda at a subsequent meeting in accordance with the Brown Act. The board may request staff to respond orally in the meeting or in writing at a future time. A total of 20 minutes public comment per topic will be allowed. If you require translation services, please contact Renee at the district office in advance by phone or email. And the meeting is videoed and broadcast on FBUSD YouTube channel. So if you are listening virtually, members of the public who wish to address the board during the board meeting are asked to please submit prior to the start of the meeting by emailing boardmeeting@fbusd.us. Staff will make all attempts to share and record any submissions received prior to or during the board meeting. However, depending on timing, late submissions may be provided to the board after the conclusion of the meeting. So do we have anyone present that has a public comment that is not, it's a non-agenda item?
Yes, we have 2 non-agenda items and potentially a third. Our first speaker is Daniel Dixon. Is that you, Dan? Okay. Right off the bat.
I'm speaking about a letter that was sent to the board, and I haven't seen it for a long time, so you guys have all read it, I assume. Okay, I'm Daniel Dixon. I'm a local architect. Okay. Too late. I'm a local architect and avid tennis playing member of the public. I also coached tennis at Mendocino High School for about 8 years and volleyball for 9 years. And I've been playing tennis probably 2 or 3 times a week in town here during that time and ever since. I'm talking about the Fort Bragg tennis courts and trying yet again to get public access to those courts. When they first came up and they were being redone, the tennis playing public was very excited, and the pickleball public, which is growing. We're very excited about that because we assumed that it would be public access, just like every other high school and school campus courts that I've ever seen. I played high school tennis in Southern California, and I've been to a lot of high schools. Like I said, when I coached here, I went to a lot of high schools and a lot of for tournaments and for weekly matches, and every one of those schools had courts that were available to the public and were an asset to the public. And I just would like the board to reconsider their past decision to not make them public. I think we did have a chance to play on the courts when they were first opened, but I think eventually that was taken away, and we were told it was a fiscal issue, and we assumed that was insurance. And it seems, I don't know much about the high school situation and that type of commercial insurance, but it seems like it's not something that would be excluded. A high school or any school has to have insurance anyway, and I don't see how it's that much more of an issue for the public, especially the responsible type of public that we're talking about. So I would really like you guys to reconsider that. My understanding, and I don't know all about that, is that they were renovated with matching funds, public and some form of matching funds. And if you don't see fit to open all 4, maybe you can open 2 to the public and keep 2 sequestered. That would be kind of a compromise that I think would help out. But as the tennis playing public, speaker for the tennis playing public, there's just not many opportunities on the coast. I've been on every court there is, and there's not very many, and there's getting to be a lot of pressure, and we need more space to play and stay healthy. So
Thank you.
please think about it.
So I just
Thank
want
you,
to
sir.
clarify also, this was not on the agenda, so there's been no board action, because we've never had this on the agenda. So just wanted to make a clarifying
Okay.
statement. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mary Kay Champagne.
And Renee, you have the timer going
I
on?
do have
Yeah,
the timer.
thank
I'll
you.
put it on the screen. for
Thank
everyone
you.
to see.
Well, it's so interesting to be back in this group again, not presenting a site plan, which I'm very grateful for. As a 30-year member of the Fort Bragg Unified School District, I am so appreciative of the Fort Bragg Unified School District that gave me my livelihood, gave me my profession, gave me an opportunity to serve this community for 30 years. And now I am enjoying so much having the opportunity to live in the community and to retire in the community and to maintain health and happiness in the community. And it has come throughout the land. The latest, I always used to laugh at this magazine, and now I read it regularly. They have a wonderful article about the proliferation of pickleball throughout the United States. It has grown 20% in the last year, one of the fastest growing sports in the United States. And it's one of the few sports where our generation has initiated it, and it is making its way through the rest of the population. And so it just is growing by leaps and bounds. And if you've played tennis and you've played pickleball, they're really antithetical in the same space, because pickleball is twice the impact of tennis. They set up their own nets on either side of the tennis court, so you automatically have 8 people, plus you have the onlookers and the people who are rotating in. So they made a decision, and I don't know the history of it, but the Fort Bragg City Council, someone said yes. They painted their 2 tennis courts at Bainbridge. Now one of the tennis courts is a pickleball court. You can play tennis on it, but you don't know where you're at. It's just a whole different game. It's set up for the pickleball folks. We're happy that they're there. I may become a pickleball person, I don't know. But the point is, there was already a huge impact on those 2 courts. Now there's a greater impact. And we need a place to play. If you can afford big bucks, you can get a membership at Little River. The courts at the sports club have gone to hell. The courts that used to be at the Fort Bragg High School went to hell a long time ago. There isn't any place to play. I began my tennis career as a little kid who went to the local high school and played on
So
the
you're,
court.
I'm sorry, your 3
Thank
minutes
you.
are up,
You're-
but
Okay,
I
okay.
can hear your
I
passion.
just want to
Yeah,
say
thank
that we need your support. I was on the administrative team that walked the neighborhoods to get the funds to renovate this high school, to make it the beautiful representation of our community that it is today. We've got to open up the
thank
court.
you.
Free the court.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Champagne.
Our next speaker is Royce Peterson.
And this is still for non-agenda items.
That's
Yes.
correct. This is still non-agenda items.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm a long-time tennis player, and I've got the battle scars to prove it, and right there is like, but I still enjoy the game a lot. We're constricted so tightly to be at Bainbridge Park. There are people at loggerheads with each other. I'm serious. There's no way to get around the fact that there's only 2 courts there. We can't accommodate everybody. But beyond the fact that that's the case here, very simply stated, my brother-in-law is a principal formerly in Marin County, currently in Chico. In speaking with him again today, he just reiterated so plainly, he says, we enjoyed having our courts open to the public. But beyond that, the simple fact is, it is simply illegal to not offer that access. End of the day, simply illegal. My understanding is it's the principal that is at loggerheads here saying we're not going to allow that access. He's opened himself to a lawsuit. I hate to say that word, but I've got the means and I've got the desire. If it doesn't happen, I'll follow that course. It has to happen. We need access to this courts. I've seen near fights between pickleball players and tennis players. It's just, we're constrained to this small area of 2 courts. It's crazy. When these courts exist, one thing that Jeff, my brother-in-law, said to me was this, I was proud to have people from the public show up at our courts. Yeah, there's some details that need to be worked out, but he said they got to understand and see our campus and enjoy it. And these are people of means, let's not fool ourselves. They were able to see what they had for this wonderful community that he's represented in 2 different counties, and really buy into the campus. And we pay taxes. It is our right to have these courts open. I hate to push that edge of it, but that's really where it lies. You know, it's a litigious society I hate to be part of, but we are. And we need access. We're going to get it, and I appreciate your help in getting us there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next non-agenda item is from, our comment is from Deborah, I'm sorry, is it Bieber? Yeah, Bieber. Okay. Do you know Justin Bieber? I can give you an extra minute if you.
No, I don't know Justin. He's Canadian. Yes, thank you. I want to speak in favor of the tennis. My name's Deborah Bieber. I am a civil engineer by trade, and I also have a master's in public health. And I want to speak to the education part of playing tennis. I'm not a lifelong tennis player. I started in my 50s. But I do want to tell you a story about my sister, who's a physical therapist, and she's working on a guy who was 100 years old. And she said, so what's your secret to this longevity? And he said, I play tennis. And she said, well, when did you quit? And he said, oh, a few months ago. So my point is, it is a lifelong habit. It's something that if we could use your courts and the kids could see us playing, even in our older age, maybe it's something they could strive to attain to. And it is a public education health issue. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our next speaker, let me just grab the timer. Our next non-agenda public comment is from Michael Hosford. Thank you.
Good evening. How are y'all doing? So I got pushed into this at the last minute, so I'm completely unprepared. But listen, I do have a home here in the city of Fort Bragg. I've been in the tennis community here for, I don't know, 10, 12 years. Tight-knit group, wonderful people, very responsible. Besides the fact that I think that we really should be allowed to be there, I think that you'd have no problems if you allowed it to happen, whether or not you believe that or not. And I'd like to give you a little story about. I belonged in the Willits community several years ago before I came here. We had an agreement with the school district there, Bechtel Grove Middle School. You guys, I'm sure, are all familiar with that. We had a little high school group, not a high school group. We had a bunch of men that played basketball at Bechtel Grove. It's actually school property, I believe, and don't think it's even a public facility. And if the city is concerned with, or the school is concerned with liability or things like that, you know, we could form our own little tennis club. We can go get an umbrella insurance coverage to take care of any issues that are there. We'll have our own little cards if you want to come and check on us. And I've done that. That's exactly what we did over there. I headed it up. I collected money from people. We had our own little group, got an insurance policy, and we were responsible for anything that happened to the property. And we were covered. You had no liability. So if that's a big issue for you, I'll take care of that for you. Whatever you guys need to tip it our direction will be wonderful. We're a good group of people. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for offering a solution.
Thank you, sir. Our next non-agenda public comment is from Eric Banks.
Hi. I'm kind of fairly new on the coast here. Just moved here about 4 years ago, but I've been playing tennis and different racquetball, different sports with a lot of these folks for a lot longer. I lived over in Redwood Valley for many years, and so I played at Mendocino College, Ukiah High School, Willits High School for over 20 years, and none of those courts were locked except for the Ukiah High School courts. And a whole bunch of us in the tennis community had a key so that we could play on those courts. And so whenever school wasn't in session and there weren't high school players using the courts, we had access to it. So there's just no reason that the same thing couldn't happen here. And like just to second what Mike was saying a minute ago, is that if liability, you know, as far as somebody being injured on the court or something like that is an issue, we could form a little group, call it whatever, tennis, pickleball club, and we could get insurance, and that should solve that issue. So at any rate, yeah, it's a public facility. We should be able to use it. So thanks a lot for hearing us out.
Thank you. Do we have any other in-person?
We do not.
Do we have any non-agenda items virtual?
We do.
Okay, so the following public comments were received by the district using the public comment email address. For ease of public participation, it will be read into the record by a district employee. This should not be construed as an endorsement of this comment by the district or the position of the district.
The first public comment is from David Dubois. Dear educators, I am one of many tax-paying local community members asking politely to have free access and use of the local high school tennis courts, which I believe were funded by our taxes, were they not? I ask you as teachers, as educators, do you personally think it sets a good example for the students to padlock and deny court access to the local community tennis players? Don't you want the kids you teach to grow up, be loving and kind, and have generous community spirit, and not be stingy and selfish? This is a perfect opportunity for you to model the behavior you want to see in them. Sadly, in this day and age, we live in a society where many take a lock it up approach. Even the local railroad has recently put a chain link fence up across the tracks to keep locals from walking along Pudding Creek. Such an opportunity to change this sort of thinking you have here before you. Please do the right thing and take the locks off the gates and open up your hearts to the community and be generous. Tennis court fences were designed to keep the balls from flying off the court, not people from playing a fun game. Best, David Dubois, Tree Servicing. The next one is from Melissa Lopez. To whom it may concern, my name is Melissa Lopez, and I am a resident and business owner in Mendocino, Cafe Beaujolais. I am writing to request that you strongly consider opening the high school tennis courts to the public. Only having 2 public courts in the area and a large and growing number of tennis and pickleball players is becoming unsustainable at high use times like afternoon, evening, and weekends. It is causing arguments concerning the court use, which is frustrating when there are high school courts which sit unused during some of those coveted days and times. We would love to be able to work out an arrangement that works for everyone and allows players to continue staying active and healthy in our amazing community. Thank you for your consideration. And that was from Melissa Lopez. The next one is from Steve Lund. Dear board members, I want to add my voice to those who are advocating for controlled public use of the FBHS tennis courts. I encourage you to allow for public access to the courts since the community has been so supportive of the district's effort over the past many years. Since health and wellness is an important priority for the community, adding this resources to the mix would be most appropriate. I encourage you to work with interested folks to enable reasonable public use. It is long overdue. Wishing you all the best, Steve Lund. And I'm looking in the board meeting email account right now, and there's no further public comment on non-agenda items.
Okay, very good. So I don't think anyone else has walked in the
Okay,
main-
hold on, wait a
yeah,
minute. There's
more.
one more. This was received at the special meeting, and we couldn't read it at the special meeting. So, I'm finding it. Joanna Wigington?
No, Caitlin
Okay, I think I need to read Joanna's as well. Okay, so it's not in here. Let me go into the email and get it. I'll read Joanna's though. Dear FBUSD Board, we represent a group of very enthusiastic tennis players. We desperately need more courts to accommodate all of us. You may recognize many of the names on the attached list, as many are retired employees of FBUSD. Many of us are long-term residents, and others have become part of the community within the last 10 years. For all of us, tennis is an important, healthy, social recreation that enhances the quality of our lives in this community. The change made to one of the tennis courts at Bainbridge Park to accommodate pickleball players has reduced by 50% the tennis playing community's access to an appropriate playing area. This is especially evident on weekends and during holidays and peak tourist visiting times. Even when the court is not being used by pickleball players, the multitude of lines makes it difficult and undesirable to play on the recently repainted court. This has led to an unfortunate enmity between tennis players who attempt to claim the one remaining tennis court and who tie it up for long periods of time. We believe there is an easy solution that would alleviate this tension among well-meaning community members. Being able, something just happened, hold on. Sorry, we added a comment in. This is especially evident on weekends and during holidays and peak tourist times, even when the court is not being used by pickleball players. The multitude of lines makes it difficult and undesirable to play on the recently painted courts. This has led to an unfortunate enmity between tennis players who attempted to claim the one remaining tennis court and who tie it up for long periods of time. We believe there is an easy solution that would alleviate this tension among well-meaning community members. Being able to use the 4 high school courts would completely solve the problem. Although we understand concerns for the use of school property, high school tennis courts are traditionally open for public use during non-school hours. In many small towns, they are the only available courts. We believe our use of these courts would enhance their protection against any feared vandalism or misuse. Because taxpayers support the school and initially provided the funds that allowed these courts to be built, we have a vested interest in using them appropriately and thereby adding to the goodwill and relationship of the community to the district. We believe having active playing groups on the courts on weekends would lessen the possibility of any vandalism and would encourage young people to stay and play and generally contribute to a vibrant, healthy community. Although we don't anticipate any problems, we remain ready to help. We are happy to donate rackets and tennis balls to any kids who are interested in playing tennis. And then there's a list of names.
Okay, so I think there might be one more, and there is, on the tennis topic, we've reached the 20 minutes. So I really thank
Okay.
you all for coming and speaking
Where is it?
on the topic. And we have one more that's not agenda item to read, but thank you for your time.
There's one more, and it's not related to tennis.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we've reached the tennis topic limit. Thank you. I know, we'll have to, yeah, arrange another time.
Okay. This is from Caitlin Burbeck, who is a student. Dear FBUSD School Board, we are leadership students who are trying to plan an upcoming dance. We have been told that you will be considering if we should have dances or not. As students at FBMS, we should be able to have dances because students need to socialize and make memories. We have already been through enough in the past 2 years, and dances are something we need to experience. If we continue to not have dances or other events, we won't learn how to get along with people in this school. To become future leaders, we need to have some normalcy in our life, and getting dances back to FBMS is the first step. Sincerely, Caitlin Burbeck, Kaylin Yanez, Jasmine Renteria, and leadership students.
Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is patriotic exercise by Trustee Snyder.
Thank you. So for the patriotic exercise tonight, I wanted to take a moment and read a couple poems as they relate to what's happening in Ukraine. First is by Ilya Kaminsky. It's called We Lived Happily During the War. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed, around my bed, America was falling. Invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous reign in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, in our great country of money, we lived happily during the war. Next is by, and this is the last one, Michaela Saran. Valor is mute, so if war comes, it will not be the sound of honor, of sturdy men and sturdy boots that you will hear. What you will hear, however, will be the ballad of bawling babies, broken, ailing, hungry, and when they'll look at you with their innocent eyes and ask you if you know where their parents went, will you tell them that they died fighting a war for the country? And when they'll ask you, what is country, will you show them the land rendered battered and barren by the axe of men? Will you show them sickness and smoke, the absolute dearth of hope, an economy so broke, a sea of orphans and no home? When they ask you what is country and what their parents died fighting for, will you even be able to tell yourself what it really is and who is not losing this war? That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. So we have acknowledgements next on the agenda. Superintendent Walker?
Acknowledgements. Sorry, I hit the agenda and I just lost it, so I'm going right back to it.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much. It's a good pause.
You're
Yeah.
welcome to stay.
We have a, thank you.
$100 was received from Lynn Ryerson Baumgartner to support ASB soccer program. Thank you, Ms. Lynn. She's been a wonderful supporter.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is communications. Do we have anything to share?
Nothing that hasn't been brought up already for me.
Okay. Same. And I know we've been receiving CSBA information, California School Board Association for Legislation Action Day and the PACER meeting. So I think a few of us will be attending to speak with our representatives. And next we are to public comment on agenda items. So I know we have a few in person this evening. Does anyone have, Renee?
Yes, we have one public comment on agenda items in person from Richard Garcia and guest.
Hello, for anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Richard Garcia, born and raised here. And I'm going to make a comment. I believe it was 10.3 on the agenda, Bainbridge Park supporting the soccer fields. I think we should be supporting the soccer fields there. The reason I'm saying this is because when I was my son's age, Noah, 8 years old, I always felt like soccer was, and I still feel that way, is the sport in this community that just gets overshadowed completely. When you go to other fields in the community, they're the outfields of baseball diamonds. Injuries happen. We lost a local economy. We had the skunk train. We lost that. We had a skunk train classic soccer tournament. We lost that in October. We lost the Spook Fest too. A bunch of teams would come out from our community. The reason I think we should be pushing for those two courts in Bainbridge is they would be made out of artificial field turf, which would require very low maintenance. When my kid goes to other cities, which he currently participates in the Eagles Academy in Ukiah, he goes out to these newer fields now. Ukiah just made a state-of-the-art, new field. And when he just played in his last weekend in Santa Rosa, he sees these brand new fields out of turf. And to him, it's like candy. And it's like a luxury to him, when it shouldn't be a luxury. Those type of fields should be everywhere. I believe, I've always said at Fort Bragg, we're somewhat behind. And I feel like our kids, teenagers, even myself, an adult, should have access to these type of fields at all times. I feel we do have a big community in the soccer community, from his age all the way to my age. I'm 30, and we're a really tight group. I just came back 30 minutes ago or an hour ago from his soccer practice. We had over 65 kids out there, and that was just one section, and there's many, many more. I also personally get tired of seeing such amazing talent go through this community, not only with soccer, but with other sports, and they kind of just stop around community college, first division. I can name a few, but I'm not going to go there. And then I see that there's a few that it's a playoff game, Timberwolves Stadium, and then you notice that the goalkeeper's missing, and he got caught up with the wrong crowd, made chief of police team difficult, and he got arrested, and he just was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I strongly believe that if you have these type of kids next to myself or other people I know, and we're enjoying those type of courts together on a daily basis, we'll make his job easier, and then I think we'll take certain talents to certain levels that they should be, and I believe a kid like him should have access to these fields at all time. So I really hope you guys support those two fields that I hope are going to be created. With that, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We have no other in-person public comment for agenda
Okay.
items.
And I think we have a few comments, and I guess I'll just read the disclaimer if anyone's viewing first time now. The public comment received by the district using the public comment email address for ease of, the following public comment was received. For ease of public participation, it will be read into the record by a district employee. This should not be construed as an endorsement of this comment by the district or the position of the district.
The first public comment on agenda items is from Shel Saunders. Rebecca, greetings. I wanted to send you a letter in regards to the 5-on-5 soccer facility project that has been proposed for Bainbridge Park in hopes that you may forward it to the school board members. As a varsity coach with FBHS Timberwolves Soccer, I can say that these facilities would be a huge benefit to local youth soccer and in turn, the player development that feeds the FBMS Cubs co-ed spring soccer and both boys and girls teams at FBHS. These facilities would also help to keep youth occupied with positive activities that will undoubtedly deter some of them from getting into trouble as an ancillary benefit. I wanted to get this letter to you and the school board to support the mayor's request to utilize special funds in addition to other fundraising efforts already made in order to complete the project for these fields. It is my hope that we will see people of all ages playing on these fields soon, and that the youth in particular have the advantage and opportunities for their own player development that these facilities will provide. I appreciate your time and consideration, as well as those of the board, and hope that all is well as we move on from a most difficult period that these last 24 months have proven to be. Regards and gratitude, Shel Saunders, Assistant Coach and Technical Advisor, FBHS Boys Soccer Program. The next letter is from, do you want me to keep them by topic, or do you want me to just read them as they came in?
I think just read them as they.
Okay,
they've
so the
arrived.
next next agenda item communication is from Zoe Berna. Hello, board. As a local doctor of many of your students, families, and staff, I am writing to request that you keep in mind your students and their family members with medical conditions that cause immune suppression. For these folks, an infectious disease like COVID has the potential to cause a more significant infection with more devastating effects. I have had many patients that have died during the pandemic, several of them directly related to COVID. When we continue to mask to prevent the spread of COVID, it is to protect this segment of the population. With this in mind, I request that students and staff who feel safe enough to discontinue masking think of others and refrain from bullying or ridiculing others who need to continue to protect themselves and their families. Sincerely, Zoe Berna, MD. The next one is from Tara Larson. Hello, distinguished board members. We are writing a letter of support for the proposed soccer fields at Bainbridge Park. We feel that 2 5-on-5 fields would be a huge benefit to our entire community. As soccer and track coaches, we see the need for more places besides the school fields for students to play soccer. This project would be beneficial and well received. We hope the board supports the mayor's proposal to use special project funds to install these soccer fields. This project is long overdue, and these 2 fields would make it so the kids are involved in playing sports and staying active. Sincerely, Merle and Tara Larson. The next comment is from Cesar Yanez. Dear FBUSD Board of Trustees and Superintendent Becky Walker, my name is Cesar Yanez. I would simply like to add my support to the mayor's request to be able to receive and use some of the special projects funds. These funds will specifically be used for the 2 5-versus-5 fields to be installed at Bainbridge Park. Having children grow up in this community and still having a young child in school and in sports, I am a strong believer that keeping our children busy and in sports helps them stay out of gangs and trouble for the most part. Having coached many young teams, I have seen firsthand the positive impact that sports brings to these children, especially in regards to health and exercising. Thank you for your consideration. I hope you have a great meeting. Sincerely, Cesar Yanez. The next item is from Andrew Wells. To whom it may concern, my name is Andrew Wells, and I am a lifetime resident of the Mendocino Coast. I've also been involved in soccer my whole life as a player, referee, and coach. I currently play in the local adult league, and I have coached the Mendocino high school team for the last 4 years. I strongly feel the proposed soccer facility would be one of the best additions to the coast and best uses of fund that the city could do. I have no doubt that the soccer facility would be used almost every single day of the year that it's not raining. For the last 8 years or so, I have been running a pickup soccer game 2 to 3 nights a week during winter months at the Mendocino K gym. participation is extremely high. Every year, we have a pool of probably 50 players or more who come and play, players of all ages and walks of life. I gave this example to show how vibrant soccer is on the Mendocino coast. To conclude, I want to reiterate that I am extremely confident that the proposal soccer facility would be a smashing success and be one of the most used facilities in the city. Thank you for your consideration. Please contact me if you have any questions, as I feel very passionate about this issue. Andrew Wells. And I believe that's the last one. Let me check the email one more time. Last one, yes?
Okay, great, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is reports, and we have our student representative, Joe, and please provide your report, and you're welcome to exit whenever you need to.
All right, thank you. I will start my report with the wonderful Redwood Elementary, where they are hosting a parent education night this very night, online and in person, through Triple P on positive parenting. Also at Redwood, report cards are going home with students on the 18th of March. The teachers met with Kelly Smith on Wednesday the 9th to review iReady data and progress across grade levels. Lundy, aka my mother, will be reporting on student progress at an upcoming board meeting. Teachers are organizing field trips to visit Point Cabrillo and the Noyo Center, and they are excited to have Officer Zavala assisting at lunchtimes on Tuesdays. At the Dana Gray campus, the science fair was well attended in the library on Monday, and all 4th and 5th grade students participated, and they had multiple students moving on to the county competition. The Dana Gray Readathon is ending on Friday of this week. The Morning Miles student walking program continues at Dana Gray, with many award necklaces given to students and over 3,000 miles walked in total. Next week, all of the grades from Dana Gray will take field trips visiting the whale bones at the Noyo Marine Science Center. The Dana Gray Spring Book Fair is happening on the 21st through the 25th. And moving on to FBMS, the middle school, soccer, wrestling, and softball are in full swing and had a lot of student tryout. It is great to see participation levels going up with extracurricular activities as well. At Fort Bragg High School, the Link Crew is having a pancake breakfast tomorrow for the freshmen. That's exciting, I'm going to that. Spring sports are starting to have games, and the preparations for the spring carnival are starting. And at Noyo High School, students are taking a deep look at art as a way to relieve stress, and they have toured murals in town, talked with art therapy folks, and will be involved in a mural project in town. The students also played the Coast Guard again in soccer in the FBHS stadium, and kids were jazzed by that, according to Connie. And next up, they have flag football against the Coast Guard, and a big shout out to Barry Silva for making the stadium happen. All right, thank you. That's my whole report. Have a great rest of the meeting and a good night.
Thank you so much for your time and your report. So the next item is superintendent report. We'll start with 8.21, construction project update.
And we have Don Alameda here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, here we go.
Hi, everyone. It's much nicer to come up here in person than try to do the Zoom thing. It didn't quite work out last month.
Thank you.
Be easier to, I mean, you all should have the monthly report. What I come up here is kind of abbreviated versions and kind of expand it, because this was written last week and things change quite quickly. Oh, okay, I gotta operate.
You get to drive.
Okay. Yeah, it's a PowerPoint one. Oh, I do? Okay, which one's the newer one? No. Oh, it's probably this one. Really, it's smaller file. Okay. Oops. Oh. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I didn't have time to send it to you ahead.
That's okay.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully it's the current one.
F5.
All righty, which button do I push to move forward?
You just push right on the side.
Okay, all right, thanks. Sorry, a little technologically challenged here.
Willie can stand right next to you if you want.
No, I'm good now, I got the button. All right, well, I'll start with, I mean, we're gonna have some, it's a tougher conversation, but at least we started off on a good note. You know, 2 months ago or last month, we approved the FRC to be the GMP contractor. And they got started on increment 1, which was DSA permit to do the site preparation work for the building. That actually has occurred and is completed. You can see a picture there, right, of where it is now. What they did is they removed a number of feet of earth and then reinstated it and compacted it, ready to be ready for the building. It was short and quick, and I don't think it was too disruptive for the kids. So now what we need to do is move into the increment 2, which is the same building permit from DSA, but it took a little while longer to get approved. Increment 2 is the actual building. And that was approved by DSA recently. Increment 2 is a bit of a challenge because the bids, Frank is a general contractor. He goes out and gets subcontracting bids for the different sub-trades. The bids came in $2 million over what the estimate was that was prepared. So now our challenge is how do we take some things out? How do we value engineer some things so we can bring this more in line and keep things going? I want to say this is not unique here. I'm also doing Mendocino. They have the same architect down in Mendocino. Back in October, they bid their project. It too came in $2 million over. We did some value engineering there. They rejiggered how they're going to sell bonds, and they're under construction right now. What was a little disheartening is back in October when that news came, we had the architect go back to his cost estimate and say, look, this is what the landscape looks like. So they adjusted their estimate back then. So we thought we were going to be covered for this. But even in the time span between October and now, it jumped it jumped that much. And we can talk later about maybe what our thoughts are, why that is, but some of it's evident with these crazy times. So once we started last week, when we first got the news about this, it was about a week and a half ago. I've been working with the architect, I've been working with the contractor to look at, okay, is there any fat in here? Anything that we could trim, make a little bit more vanilla, things we could defer. So between publishing this and as of yesterday, well, actually, here's a budget. Originally, we thought the the budget would be about 8.3 million. I'm projecting about 10.5 right now with this projection. Since then, we've looked at deferring some of the work just so we can get moving on the first phase and tightening up going back to subcontractors, say, okay, what's costly here in the plumbing that we could maybe change? What's costly here in the mechanical that we could possibly change? Well, we made some movement on that, but the biggest thing was to recommend deferring the bus loop until phase 3. That'll at least get us moving forward with this phase. Again, it's deferment and it's not, reducing the cost, it's just deferment. But we're trying to move forward. This here, and it's going to be hard to read for you, but and I can share it with them because this is not in your monthly report because it's that fresh. The red items are items that we could defer that are associated with the bus loop, which we'll have to regroup and figure out a way to maybe tighten those numbers up and do that in phase 3. Phase 2 being the Alta project at the other campus. The green items here are things that we could take out or rejigger in the project that are gonna be permanent savings. With these measures that we worked on in the last week and a half or so, that deficit of 2 million is actually now, well, the value engineering is about 631,000 that we've had discussions on. So that brings down the deficit from 2 million to about 1.5 million. So if you look on the forecast, that's with where the bids are, and the one you see, original budget is the far left. You know, it went from construction, I'm reading from, I can read right here. It went from 6.4 million to 8.4 million. That's the lion's share of where the cost deficit is. And what you see up there is amended from what you see in the report. The report says 2 million deficit. This one says 1.5 because it reflects the work we've been doing in the last few days. Other things that are a ripple effect on the construction cost being more is the permit fee is higher, the architectural engineering fees are higher. So when all said and done, it's about a 9 point something. I've got the 10 point here in front of me. So that's basically where the $1.5 million is. We're still continuing to work on it. I think for this phase, it's going to be hard to eke out more than the 630 that we've already done, but we're attempting to. So before we come back to you for approval on a GMP, I'm hoping the 630 that we cut out of it might be 675, maybe 700. But there's no way we're going to take 2 million out of this project. There's just not that much fat in it, and it's just we're finding it's harder to get competition on the coast. That's why both districts' prices are high. But we kind of knew that. Maybe we're a little shocked at how hard it is. Other aspect, it's a prevailing wage job, so while you do have contractors in the area, a lot of them don't like to, even though it pays better, they don't like the paperwork, is what they say, and they don't. So the contractor pool is smaller. And then we also get contractors from the outer area, but they have to pay per diem and you know, hotel rooms for their crew to come here. And then another aspect that a little harder to quantify is this business about skilled and trained workers, which is a mandate for lease-back projects. And it's basically, in short, it's a way the unions try to keep projects union.
Mhm.
And those are the things we have to contend with. I think the biggest deficits as far as trades was mechanical. You have Redwood High School has a boiler system, which is one of the more costly systems that do. But the whole campus is already a boiler. It does well in this kind of climate. We've talked to them, we could maybe get 20 or 30,000 cut from that, but it's a pretty expensive proposition doing boilers these days. A lot of other areas don't do boilers anymore because they're so expensive. The electrical, we've looked at and tried to say, okay, are there any gilded light fixtures here? And there really isn't. It's pretty vanilla light fixtures. One cost saving is in that list, if it wasn't in our list, it's going to be on the list, is going from conduit to MC cable, which sounds kind of technical, but they both work the same. Conduit allows you to pull wire in the future. I'll be damned if I ever have seen a school pull new wire to rejigger a conduit. So MC cable is a lot cheaper to install. It's the same wire inside. It's just the way it's manufactured. You can't, after the fact, in 10 years, pull wire or add wire to it because of the way it's manufactured. But, you know, so that's one savings that we're looking for in electrical. And plumbing, again, is another one. As far as the interior finishes, there's, you know, sheetrock, some tack wall, some acoustical stuff. The exterior is cementitious board, which is good for this environment. So we're not seeing things that we could really pull out. It just, unfortunately, with all the craziness, over the last 2 years, this is kind of the price of potatoes right now. Let me see if I got another slide. I think I pretty much talked about that. Where it really this is the Phase 2 project, which is Alt Ed. We're projecting 12 million. I'm gonna get a cost estimate from the architect's estimator next week, which I think is gonna be, rather than the construction being 10 million, I think they're saying 12 million. So there's a ripple effect here also. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know what it is, but we're gonna have a meeting in person with the architect and the contractor next week and try to better that, because we need to be closer to that 10 million, not the 12 million I'm getting hearsay about.
And Don, remember that when it came to Alt Ed, we've already scaled back, so we're so just
Yeah, that was
just note to self.
Yeah, no, back in October, when Mendocino came in 2 million over, that we told them to go revisit Alt Ed based on what happened there, and we cut things to get to the 10 million. So, anyway, so we've got our homework.
So
mostly-
if you hadn't made any reduction, it would be 4 million in deficit right now? If you
Oh, no,
had-
this is a different project. We haven't got bids on
Right.
the Alt Ed
Okay.
yet. But we altered the estimate based on what occurred in October. So we haven't got a bid for this because the drawings aren't done. So these are going to, this one's going to be projections for the next half year or so, or year. But your bond sales, you've had one bond sale, and you have one coming up. At this moment with the 1.5, you're right under the 23 million of the two totals. But with the news of the Alt Ed coming in higher than the 10 million, we're tipping over. And the third bond sale is not to 2025, and I really don't want to push things out because time is money, and expectations are that we want to get it done sooner than later. So we've got our work cut out for you. I just, sorry that we've got tough news here. Anyway, let me, that's my last slide.
Okay.
I'm wide open for questions. It's kind of dynamic the last week or two, trying to rein this thing in as much as we can, but.
Do we have
I have one, Don,
questions?
on the wiring option.
Uh-huh.
Is that, have we talked to our tech people about whether that's something?
Oh, it's not that,
It's not that wiring?
it's not that wire, it's power wiring. Yeah, the tech wiring usually is in D-rings, a lot of times, or in conduit.
Well, you're talking about conduit pulling, and I know a lot of pulling and conduit.
Happens with tech, yeah,
So I
yeah.
just wanted to make sure we weren't shorting our.
Yeah, we should talk to them and see if they live with D-rings or if they do conduit for the low tech, or the low voltage stuff, not the low tech, the low voltage stuff. The MC cable is for the power, line voltage.
Okay. Trustee Metzen, did you have a question?
I talked with Don and Jim Teese, is that his name?
Jim Tice, yeah,
Yeah.
the principal of our KKA. Yeah, we had a little discussion yesterday.
And talked about basically what Don went over tonight. So the longer we wait, the worse this is gonna get. But
Yeah,
as far as the third part with the traffic loop, I think maybe putting that on a pause might be a good idea, because we don't wanna get.
Jerry, you're going to have to get in closer to your mic. Believe it or not, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Well, now you know how I feel.
I know, it's really a pain, isn't it?
So what I'm saying is, I don't feel comfortable giving them the thumbs up and full speed ahead on the traffic loop at Redwood, because we may not have enough money to finish it. Even though that may cost us more, by the time we do get around to doing it, it could be another God knows how much money.
And again, that's, you know how I look at everything mandatory, necessary, desirable.
Mhm.
That's definitely in the desirable category.
Right.
For us, so it's definitely something that, yeah, I'm all for push it off till close to the end, and if we have the money, do it, and if not.
Pull it.
right.
Yeah, we'll have to either
Yeah.
reconsider a different project or a smaller project or something, but who knows where we're gonna be by the time we get around to that.
yeah. Traditionally, I've been doing this for a long time, and there are indexes that you're probably aware of, construction indexes for inflation over the years. And typically, over a 10-year period, it's average about 3%. Some years it's 1.5, a lot of years it's 4 or 5. I haven't seen the numbers this year because they're not published yet, but, in general, inflation, they've been talking on the news, 6.5%, 7.5%, so, it's just crazy town right now.
Yeah. So this is just a report. Does anyone else have any questions for Don?
Just a quick, so the construction contingency of 800,000, can that be used for, is that what this is for, or is that totally something else?
I'm sorry, can you
It's
try?
a owner's contingency of $800,000 in the budget?
That's where this number would come from, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there is some funds to account for some of this 2 million, but obviously not all of it.
Right, yeah. Usually that contingency that you see up there is meant for after you start construction, so you have something for what ifs.
Got it.
It's less of a
Everything goes
concern here, and the
over
percentage is
on.
lower because it's new construction.
Mm-hmm.
If this was a remodel, you wouldn't want to blow that wad right at the start because you're going to come up with
Right.
dry rot or some other stuff.
Of course.
It's less of a concern in this instance because it's new construction. And if anything would have jumped up at us, it would have been during the groundwork, which that's existing construction, but
Right.
we'll pass that piece, at least in the first phase.
Okay.
How long do you think it would be before you could get a hard locked-in number for the Redwood Phase 1 project?
We'd like to bring it forward either at the next board meeting or a special board meeting beforehand. Once we feel confident that we'll wring everything out of it, which we'll probably, within a week or week and a half, we should know what else we can wring out of these subcontractor numbers.
Okay. Any other questions? So I trust that the staff will keep us as close to budget as possible, and I'd love to have Jerry be part of those conversations if he can help with the,
We would love to have Jerry
Yeah,
be part of
to
that.
make sure he's,
It feels
he's
good to be
available.
wanted.
yeah. Okay.
All right,
Thank
I'm
you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. I'm
Thanks,
sorry
Don.
for the bad news.
Yeah. So the next item on reports is LCAP Family Engagement.
So this is just to give you a brief summary of what's going on with the LCAP. I've already attended the Redwood Site Council meeting and the high school Site Council meeting and talked about the LCAP. President Paoli was at the high school Site Council meeting. So these are the upcoming meetings that I will be attending to do our LCAP roadshow. We are in a little bit of a weird spot because when we did the LCAP last year, remember that was the beginning of the LCAP for 3 years. So we're moving that forward. This is now taking the place of our strategic plan. So we are going to have these meetings here, and then we're holding a virtual meeting that we've added on March 30th to kind of take in anybody who isn't or can't attend the ones that are already listed. So those are the dates, just for your information, so that if you want to attend, you have the ability to do so. But we are going full bore on the LCAP Roadshow.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I just wondered, where is the DLAC meeting being held?
That happens, I believe in Carolyn's office, but that is a great question. We will get that, I take it back. The DLAC meetings have been virtual.
Oh, that's going to be virtual.
Mhm.
Okay, and then how do you get that link?
It's in the
On the website.
calendar
Yeah.
Okay,
invite.
okay.
Thank you.
I meant for people, everybody.
It's on the calendar,
Oh, just in the calendar. Oh,
if you go to the district website and go to the public calendar, it's in there.
it's in there. Okay, great,
Yeah.
great.
I think I would just ask if the virtual meeting is so popular that maybe you schedule another one.
Oh,
'Cause
good
it's
call,
a great
yes.
way for people to participate.
Or if we don't have enough people in it, maybe we schedule another one just to try it again one more time.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you. So the next item on the reports is summer school planning.
So we just wanted to reiterate what we're doing for summer school. We are hoping to run a very similar summer school program again this summer that we did last summer. So we'll be offering the stipend to employees to come and teach summer school. Currently, we have 15 certificated people who've applied to teach summer school and 44 classified. But that 15 is not 15 individual classes. There are 4 people who want to job share. So we're really looking at 11. That's going to limit our number of what we can offer. I'm hoping that we have more sign up at the last minute, so we'll just keep an eye out. If we need more, then what we will do is we'll open it up to our local substitutes to see if anyone from our ranks would like to work this summer and teach a class. So with that, 15 certificated, 44 classified, we're looking forward to offering another enrichment summer program.
Okay, and next report is student athlete COVID-19 testing.
So I wanted to keep you apprised of what we are going to be doing with testing of athletes. Right now, we test athletes twice weekly. Masks are required in all of our classrooms and indoor settings. Beginning on Monday, you voted to allow masking to be optional on all of our campuses in indoor settings, regardless if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. So in order to keep tabs on our student body, we are going to continue athletic testing for 2 weeks at the twice a week cadence. At that point, it'll be April 1st after 2 weeks. If our numbers continue to resemble the numbers that we have right now, I would feel more than confident to reduce that testing cadence to once a week. For right now, though, I would like we will continue doing testing of athletes twice a week so that we have a good picture of what COVID looks like when the masks come off. So I just wanted to keep you apprised of what we're doing and the why behind it. And I'll keep you posted in the April meeting to let you know if we've reduced testing down to once a week or if we're keeping it at 2.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, the next and last item on the superintendent report is FBUSD masking guidance for 2021-22 school year.
So again, I just wanted to put this on the agenda as a report. You've already voted on this at our special meeting last week, but just again wanted to remind the public and remind all of us that masking is going to be optional come Monday, March 14th. We have adopted the public health recommendations. CDPH did release new recommendations yesterday to be in effect March 12th. So I will send that link out to all of you, and we will put that link on our website as well so that folks can read it.
Any questions for Superintendent Walker? Yes,
Could
trustee.
you give us a quick overview of what's happening as far as discussions with students and staff to address the concern about treating people with respect and the bullying and things like that?
So one of the reasons that I pressed the board to have a special meeting last week is because I wanted us to have this week to deal with whatever that decision was. So this week, we've all the principals have had meetings with either their leadership teams or their staff, or the whole staff, to be able to discuss what is going to be done in order of having conversations with kids about having masking be a free choice and respecting people's choices and respecting people's personal space. So I know at the middle school, they had presentations for every classroom that Erica Malson prepared. I know in the high school, they've had their advisory classes, had a discussion about being respectful, taking care of each other, not having the ridicule or the bullying, and really talking about how we respect personal choice. Redwood and Dana Gray, those discussions are happening in the classroom. So I will just let you know that when I walk around from campus to campus, I am going to play the piece of who is represented least. If I walk on a campus and I see more masks and fewer people without a mask, then I'm going to walk around without my mask to support the people who don't have masks. If I get on a campus and I see very few masks, only 1 or 2 people with masks, then I'm going to be wearing my mask to support the people who are wearing their masks. Does that make sense? So I want to make sure that we are supporting all of our folks. I know that our teachers are doing their best to talk with kids about how we treat each other, and this is just really another form of respect. So we have put out a full concerted effort to have those conversations in classrooms and to have those conversations with staff members so that we can work together as a team. I am hopeful that parents are also having those discussions with their children, and I am hopeful that we can move into March 14th with a very high level of respect and kindness of honoring people's personal choices. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other? Okay. Moving on to 8.3, do we have a report from CSEA?
No, not at this time.
And then also 8.4 FBDTA report, do we have?
No, there is no
neither one.
report.
Okay, thank you. So we're moving on to our approval of agenda consent items, and these are non-controversial. And items on the consent can be passed in one motion without discussion, or an item can be pulled by the board and moved to action when approving the agenda. So if I could have Vice President Macula read the consent items?
Okay, we have item 9.1, warrants, 9.2, minutes for February 10th, 2022, regular meeting, and March 3rd, 2022, special meeting, 9.3, personnel action report, and 9.4, contracts.
Okay, so does anyone need to pull an item, or may I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent items.
Okay, in a second?
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Mattson? And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Seeing no
Yes.
opposed, so moved. And so we come to our first item, board action 10.1 FBUSD 2021-22 COVID district protocols.
So I have nothing new to give you. I anticipate that public health will have something for us to follow. I'm hoping they're going to say something as simple as please follow the CDPH guidance as presented. Believe it or not, if we follow the CDPH guidance as it's presented, it would simplify what we do considerably. And I think it would be easy for parents to follow as well. So I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. What I would recommend at this board meeting is that I would ask for your support in making a motion or taking action that you give me, the superintendent, the power to implement the COVID protocols as presented through Mendocino County Public Health, so that we don't have to convene another board meeting and I give them to you and you say yay or nay. At this point, we are reaching the end of this. And again, I'm crossing my fingers, which is not really a good bet, let me just say that out loud, that our public health officer is going to allow us to follow CDPH so that we can kind of get rid of the scenario 1 through 5 and figure out what to do and just look at it and say, this is what we do.
Okay. So does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, it sounds like the recommendation is a motion to give her approval to follow the guidance that's been ordered by our county public health, who hopefully will also coincide with the county or the California Department of Public Health. So may I have a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. That would give Superintendent Walker the leeway to make the decision to follow county public health officer should they update district protocols.
In a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
President Paley?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Very good, thank you. So you have the full authority to follow
Oh,
California,
isn't that scary?
the county public health orders. So moving on to 10.2, teleconferencing virtual meeting requirements pursuant to AB 361. And we're just doing this as housekeeping. We're approving this every 30 days to allow us the leeway if we do need to go back to a virtual setting. So may I have a motion, or if there are any questions, this would be the time.
No questions. I'll make a motion, we approve item number 10.2, teleconferencing virtual meeting requirements
In a second?
pursuant to AB 361.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
President Paley?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Very good. And 10.3, long awaiting, City of Fort Bragg, Bainbridge Park Playground and Soccer Fields.
We have Mayor Norvell here with the city.
So did you want to present anything first, and then we can have public comment?
So we did ask Mr. Norvell to attend,
Yes.
just so you know.
So he's part of, yeah.
Mayor
Thank
Norvell,
you.
excuse
Yes.
me. So What you have before you is the TOT funds. A portion of that was set aside for the school district soccer field, the school district fields. And so the city of Fort Bragg now has a project with Bainbridge Park, and they need they need some extra funds to complete the project, and they're asking to use this allocation this one time. So I'm gonna, with your permission, I'd just like Mayor Norvell to give the highlights.
Great, thank you very much for that, President Payroll and trustees. I'm Bernie Norvell, Mayor, City of Fort Bragg. I have with me here today the Vice Mayor, Jessica Morcelje, Chief of Police, John Nolte, and our Head of Public Works, John Smith. And why we're here is we have an opportunity to provide these 2 5-on-5 all-weather surface fields at Bainbridge Park. The fields are part of the Bainbridge Park Master Plan to revitalize the park. We just, in the last few years, we've been applying for grants and been unsuccessful. Just recently, we got a per capita grant from State Parks and, for the amount of $177,000. The total price for the project for the fields is $325,000. The Chief Nolte, through his education grant and asset forfeiture funds, has agreed to allocate us $40,000. And as Ms. Walker explained, the special projects fund from the city is an allocation from the city's transient occupancy tax. The special projects fund is, the way it's written is it's special projects including but not limited to fields. I think the idea originally was to help with soccer fields. To date, all the money has been spent. The Vice Mayor and I have stayed in contact with Ms. Walker and Barry Silva every year when we come up for budget to make sure you guys' needs are being met. And to date, we've helped you buy the lawnmower, the tractor, an aerator, and then just at our last meeting, we approved a resolution to help pay for water improvements at Dana Gray, which I think was about $37,000. So what my plan, with your support, would be to come to council at our last meeting in March and ask council to support using the asset forfeiture funds, the per capita grant, and then the remaining balance in the special projects account, and then part of next year's allocation. Next year's allocation will probably be a little bit north of $60,000. TOT is up. The last couple of years, the allocation has been $60,000, so we expect it to be a little bit more. And what I would like to do is I'd like to have in writing your support, or if you will, your blessing, to present to council that the school district is in support of using these funds to provide these fields. You've heard from some of the public about the need, which we certainly have. We had a community development meeting a few weeks ago that the Vice Mayor and I sit on, and we had lots of support letters trying to get these soccer fields in, basically. So we're at an opportune time, I feel, where we can really knock off this project and get it done and move on with the rest of Bainbridge. And again, provide these all-weather fields, as Mr. Garcia explained. It's every other city's doing it. It's a need, and that's really where we're at. So if you guys have any questions, I have, again, like I said, our Public Works Director here, and myself, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So you would use the entire $60,000 TOT allocation for the soccer field?
No, most recently there was about $111,000 in there. And then, like I said, we just provided you with, I think, $37,000 for the Dana Gray water improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to use the remaining balance and then part of next year's allocation for the funds. I did talk to Barry, and he didn't seem like he was in support of it. I asked him if he had any plans for the money, and it didn't seem like it at the time. But we will certainly keep that communication open for anything that the district sees a need for.
Does anyone have any questions for Mayor Norvell?
I was curious just about where. I know that I saw a picture, but I wasn't, not spatially.
Sure, thank you for that, and I apologize for not explaining it. So if you're familiar with Bainbridge, you have the tennis courts that were a topic tonight. Just west of that are the basketball courts. And then just west of that would be the, between there and the street would be the soccer fields.
Okay.
So scroll one more time.
Yeah,
and-
it's
and
at the,
you'll-
it's at the end.
So there, so
Okay.
So the park, the play area is 2 and 3, correct?
Mhm.
Correct.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's the Wiggly Giggly,
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
and the orange building is veterans?
and that's the Veterans Hall.
Okay.
That's correct.
And
Got
the
it.
tennis courts, the one basketball court, and then they're proposing it to be
Mm.
between 7 and 6. So number 4 would be would number 4 be the soccer?
Both of them there, yeah. So
Yeah.
originally we had thought 1 7-on-7, and the soccer community came and said, you're better off doing 2 5-on-5s. You'll get more kids and more people out playing. So that's why we just recently switched that.
Okay.
Looks good.
Anyone else have questions?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment that I think, you know, we were super excited to have the funds coming in to try to help with the fields, but I feel like this is such a bigger bang for the buck. Obviously, we're not putting in a whole bunch, but I just think adding those would be an amazing thing for the community.
Yeah, if you could throw in a tennis court, that might be helpful.
We did line one of the tennis courts with pickleball lines. So.
Yeah, we did hear that this
Yes.
evening.
I don't know if you were here for that part of the meeting.
I
He
was,
was,
yeah.
he was.
I think
That
you're
was
on
great.
the hook for the rest of them.
Any other questions?
No,
or
good thing, Bernie. Thanks for putting
Yeah,
that together.
Looks
I
great.
think, I mean, what I'm seeing here is there's no objection on this board, and so I'll be looking for a motion, but you're ready, you're turnkey ready. You know, any of our field deficits, we're still in the muck of planning, and I just think that money, you need to use it now and have it not sit in an account waiting for us to get, you know, going on our ventures.
And that money was intended for field use, so this really
Mhm.
is a perfect, this is a perfect project for it,
Right.
so.
And it'll help the community, so
We
it's,
have currently we have no further ask for the money.
Well, we needed some storage, water storage for Dana Gray to help improve that
Right.
field, and we just got granted that.
That's correct.
So that's coming through. You know, what needs to happen, to be quite honest with you, if we want to use the TOT funds to help the fields, we need to let it accumulate. Like, we need to get it to a point where we have a couple of $100,000 there so that we could do some real work. The hard part with the fields is Dana Gray is in the most disrepair. That's going to require hundreds of thousands of dollars, to be quite honest with you. The middle school's not too bad, but the problem is that if we shut down a field to repair it or to give it a facelift, it means that we shut down all the work, all the use of that field. So it's a really kind of touchy subject. Anyway, you don't need to hear all our field woes. I 100% support this. I think this is a good use of money. This is going to impact children, which is what we're here for, to make sure that the kids have what they need to stay active and to keep moving. So
be successful. May I have a motion?
I'll move to approve item 10.3, the City of Fort Bragg Bainbridge Park Playground and Soccer Fields.
In a second?
I'll second, but just to clarify, are we doing a letter of support, or is this just a motion?
So this
It's a
is,
verbal
so
support of the
Mayor
project?
Norvell came to me and asked for a letter of support, and I didn't feel comfortable doing that letter of support all by myself. This is funding and facilities, and I felt it was incumbent upon you as a board to make that decision.
Okay.
So you are going to make a motion to approve a letter of
Letter of
support,
support, okay.
and then we'll get you
What you need?
what you need. If it's a letter of support, or if you can go back to your city council meeting and say at the FBUSD board meeting, they
Although I
approve.
have witnesses, I would appreciate the
Okay.
letter of
And this is
support.
on YouTube, but
Yeah, yeah, wonderful.
you could also show this section of the meeting, because I'm sure our meeting is way more exciting than yours, Mr.
I
Mayor
agree.
Norvell.
It has been so far, yeah.
A roll call, please?
Yes. President Paley,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Makala,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for coming. Feel free to stay.
Yeah, and thank you very much for keeping our staff in the loop about the budget and being really kind with those funds, because we appreciate that collaboration. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Thank
coming.
you.
Good night.
Nice seeing you.
So 10.4 is certification of athletic team coaches.
This is what we do every year, so there's nothing controversial with this. I often wonder if this should be part of a consent. So, but there you go. We do this every year.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that. So may I have a motion unless there are questions or corrections?
Make a motion, we approve the certification of athletic coaches, item number 10.4.
In a second?
I'll second.
And roll call, please.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
President Paley?
Yes.
And the motion
sorry.
carries.
Oh.
Yes?
No. Now that we've moved on, but is there any way that we could do the letter so that that's not something on Becky's plate? I mean, does it have to be something fancy? Or
No, I think the letter's done and he
Oh,
needs
we
us.
just need
Well,
this-
I think
okay.
he's pretty comfortable witnessing us with his witnesses that we supported it.
And you have a
Well, no,
letter.
he said he wanted it something
Okay,
in writing.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it, really. It's, it's okay, but bless you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I think we.
The motion on 10.4 carried unanimously.
Yeah, thank
Sorry,
you.
I interrupted.
Yeah. That's okay. Good point, though. But yeah, reach out to us if we can help. 10.5, the California School Board Association Delegate Election Ballot.
So you get this once a year or when the seat
Every
becomes
couple years,
available.
yeah.
And so what we have here is delegates serve a 2-year term, but I believe,
We have two that or ours is expiring.
yes.
Which is Tyler, so it doesn't look like anyone put their
I-
name in, but do you know if we can elect him again? Do you know if he has, I should have called, we could just put his name, that's who our representative was in sub-region 1B, and his term must be expiring in December.
Well, I say you just write him in again.
Yeah,
But,
that's what I say. I don't, because it's possible that maybe he just inadvertently missed the deadline.
So what you can do is you can move to write his name in, and then I can check with Deb Cuban if he's running again. He's on their board in Ukiah.
Mhm.
And if not, then we'll leave it blank.
Okay. Well, I can also email him as well, unless you're
Well, it
planning-
says, no nominations were received, however, your board may write in a name of the board member to, or a board member to fill the seat. So
Mhm.
that would say that we could put his name in.
Yeah, he doesn't need consent, that's right. Yeah.
So it's up to you. I think he's done a fine job. I haven't spoken to him this year to ask about the delegate meeting. So that's up to you as a board, unless one of you would like to throw your name in the hat and
Are there any takers? No. Okay. So may I have a motion?
I'll move to use our vote to renominate Tyler Nelson as a delegate.
I'll second.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
And President Paley?
Yes.
And motion carries.
Thank you. And I'll email him and tell him that we elected him.
perfect.
10.6 is Staywell Health Plan JPA for fiscal year 2022-23, Resolution 2203.
This is our annual resolution indicating our intention to remain in the Staywell GPA for our healthcare insurance for the 22-23 year.
Okay. And Vice President Makala, if you could read our Resolution 2203?
Yes. In order to ensure the continued operations of the Staywell Health Plan and to support the participating management unique in this plan, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees commits itself to support the Staywell JPA by, number 1, requiring attendance of 3 representatives to the Staywell Board, number 2, enforcing all policies of the JPA in accordance with its bylaws, number 3, maintaining the standard Staywell coverage and deductibles in accordance with the current provider contract for all eligible employees, and number 4, supporting a district wellness committee to address employee wellness. Do I write the I certify? You sign that, so.
And even be, very good. So we
Yeah.
will ask for a motion to approve.
Make a motion, we approve item number 10.6, Resolution 2203, Staywell JPA Agreement.
In a second.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Matson,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
and President Paley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So our next is 10.7, Restorative Justice and Cultural Competency, Professional Development.
So we have a team coming in of Kevin Skipper and Jimmy Crudison, who are going to be working with Dana Gray and Alt Ed and hopefully all of our sites in future years to really work on cultural competency. There was question about the dollar amount because it looks really high. That includes their lodging, their meals, their travel, the whole, and their prep. So rather than putting out something that we wouldn't quantify, these are the hours that they're going to be with us on campus. But all the prep that goes on in the background, all the phone calls that are happening in the background are included in that. So that's why it looks high. They've already been working with me, probably roughly 5 or 6 hours. They've already been working with some of our families. So I'm excited to have both Kevin and Jimmy on board. They have a wealth of knowledge and a great background behind them. Jimmy teaches African American Studies at Laney College. And Kevin is a restorative justice's restorative practices guru. They are an incredible team. I am hoping that they are going to be here on April 21st so that you can meet them. Every time I speak to them, I learn a little bit more. I learn a little bit about myself, which is frightening, and I learn just a little bit more about my own personal cultural awareness. So I think it's the timing is right for us in Fort Bragg Unified, and I think this is who we're targeting is important. So we brought this to you because it's more than a $15,000 contract for your approval.
Thank you. Do we have questions? Any questions from the board?
I do. Well, for next year, then we're hoping to continue this at the
So
other
I'm going to ask
schools?
for a different contract for next year. What we're looking at for next year is trying to figure out how to fit it in with the staff meetings and the ER time. We're also looking at doing maybe some summer workshops where people can earn DCEC units. So we're looking at a couple of different possibilities so that we can fit it all in. The hard part is we have 4 professional development days at the start of the year in August. 2 of them are designated for teacher preparation. That means we have 2 days for professional development, and really that's 14 hours. So with that is, right, your staff meetings, your grade level and department meetings, any PD that you're going to have, the 504 meetings. We try to do a district-wide something. I'm hoping we do a district-wide something. And then a half hour for FBDTA. So when you start chipping away at it, those 2 days go away very quickly. So we're working with them to figure out some kind of a big game plan that we can offer throughout the year and offer units or offer daily rate of pay or something. But we do want to infuse it into the staff meetings that are happening twice a month, and maybe it's one of the staff meetings, and then looking at what we can do with our administrative ER days.
And are they, like, is this what they're going to be doing from here on out, or you said one of them is a professor or instructor?
So they have
gonna-
carved out their schedule to make sure that they can come for us. So they're going to be working with Dana Gray primarily. We've had some issues. And so they're going to be doing a phase-out approach. They're going to start with working with families and working with the students. They'll be on campus for like 1 week for 3 days, the following week for 2 days, the following week for 1 day, 1 day, 1 day, so that it's not just, okay, here you go, here are tools, bye-bye. It's to be able to follow up with kids, follow up with staff, follow up with the families. And what I really appreciate about this more than anything is their involvement with families and working to help our children understand that cultural competency, but at the family base as well.
But
So,
going forward, they'll be able to work us into their schedules of their other jobs? or-
Yes.
Yeah.
so that's why, like right now, one of the reasons it's expensive is because they are dropping other projects to be here for us.
I see.
I cannot overemphasize how important it is for us to jump into this. And then as we move into the school year for next year, I want to work with them to see how they can maintain their life and their schedule, and how we can have a consistent presence from them so that what they do with us in the form of cultural competency isn't a one and done approach. It's an ongoing, it's ongoing professional development.
Well, and it's meeting the need of the social emotional learning and support that we have needed pre-pandemic, and I know we really need it now. So with this being not general fund dollars, this is coronavirus relief funding, the timing couldn't be better to have professionals that have the integrity and know-how to, be ready to help. That maybe the need will be less, in the future because we're hitting it hard now. So may I have a motion? Are there other questions?
Any emails?
Oh, what a great comment. Thank you.
Check the public comment.
There is no public comment.
So we haven't missed any
No
others.
new
Thank
public
you.
comment. Thank you.
I know when there's no one in the audience, you forget about public, but we got to keep checking.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go ahead and move to approve item 10.7, restorative justice and cultural competency professional development.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Makla,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
President Paley,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, and 10.8, we have district-wide Ethernet cabling project E-rate. Thank you so much for sticking out the meeting at 7:36 for
And I am
Ari
sorry,
Rule
Ari,
Gustafson.
we
should have bumped you up.
we should have bumped you up. I'm sitting here watching you saying, why didn't we bump him up when we did the agenda setting? So,
It's
you know,
worth it. It's fine.
I have to say,
sorry.
thank goodness you live in Fort Bragg. Good job, Ari.
Oh, because I was thinking you had to drive over to Willits. Oh, good. Okay. Whew.
So, thank you for being here, Ari.
He loves these meetings.
You can see that our tech is working.
Basically, what this is going to allow us to do is we have new bandwidth coming in at the high school. We have 10 gig fiber coming into the high school. I'm going to try to not nerd out too much, but basically we have a 100 meg circuit at each site. And they're old and they're expensive because it was the older technology, and things have become much cheaper as far as data goes. Not necessarily everything else. So basically what we've done is we've run 2 fibers, one from Redwood to the high school under the streets, leased AT&T, and one to the middle school. And what that's going to allow us to do, the other kind of fiber is called customer-owned dark fiber. It's basically our fiber that we have that goes under the parking lots. We own it. We have to maintain it. We have one that goes in between the DO and Redwood. So what this is going to allow us to do is have a center point with 10 gigs, which is more than everything we have put together, and it's actually cheaper than what we're paying now. The reason we need to do the Ethernet is obviously we've had a ridiculous amount of technology growth, but what this will do is this will allow us to have most of the district accessing this 10 gigs of fiber. Things are going to be a lot faster. And as far as the physical aspect of it goes, this room isn't a really good example, but the conduit going up around the top, normally in classrooms, this is really classroom focused. Normally in classrooms, we have wide, Panduit is a brand that a lot of people are familiar with, conduit that goes around the room, and it has the plugs for the electricity and the Ethernet. And a lot of times, extra has to be added on for clocks, access points up the walls. This is going to be done very clean. This is going to take all of that into account. When I first started, almost 10 years ago, at Willits Unified, that was the project that was in my lap. And I recently talked to the tech over there, and he said it's holding up great. It's wonderful. It's easy to work with. The classrooms will be getting what's called Twin 70, which allows us to run more than just a data cable. They're wide, and there's 2 channels. One is for electricity, one is for data, multimedia. Less stapling to the walls is one way to look at it. And it's going to last us a long time. So E-rate subsidizes, E-rate Category 2 subsidizes 85% of our spending on infrastructure only, not end user and not phones, unfortunately. So it's specifically for this kind of stuff. It's 85%, but up to a limit. And our limit between all the sites put together is a little over 300,000 is what they will subsidize. We put this out to bid, and we only got 1 bid. We had 2 contractors come look at it. One actually didn't look at it because they had looked at it before. The other one came and looked at it, and it might have been too big of a job. I'm not exactly sure, but they didn't give us a bid. So we have the one bid, and the district responsibility would be almost about E-rate. So instead of, it is 85%, but up to a point, it basically is going to cut the bid into half. So I think we should move forward. I ask that we move forward. It's basically the second part of what we've been doing, upgrading the infrastructure, and I hope it lasts a long time.
And we need
So
a Wendy,
one,
we need a Wendy
Yeah.
response.
It's like, it's still a big number.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things with E-rate is there are so many different layers, it's like an onion, of available funding. It turns out that we are going to be recouping almost exactly our responsibility here from them for the purchase of the last 1,000 Chromebooks that we did and paid for using coronavirus relief money. So it's kind of a little little cycle there. So that's what I would plan to use to do this, since we've already purchased the Chromebooks. One thing I just noticed, though, it says bond not included in this amount, district to pay bond fees separately. Do we have any idea what that number is?
Say again?
Bond fees?
No, I have no idea. I can find that out.
Oh, here it is, estimated cost 9,000 to 12,000, okay. Okay,
It's in the ADC doc.
not a deal
Got it.
breaker.
And financially, like Wendy said, there was the ECF fund recently to buy student equipment, and we got approved for 2 rounds in a row, actually, so that was all money that we didn't have to spend at all. Well, we spent it, we're getting refunded
Right.
for it.
Yeah, and actually, that's just one of the reimbursements. We have another reimbursement
Yes.
also that we don't have any
And
books into yet, but.
E-rate is refunded rebate style per site. So as one site construction is completed and the cables are installed, we get refunded for that one, and then as each one is completed, we get, so.
So it's in piece, kind of smaller chunks, not
Yes.
all at once.
Well, these 4 pieces
Yeah.
is what it'll be. It's not going to be, reimbursed over our reduced AT&T bills. It's not going to be $59 a month kind of thing.
That would
For
be bad.
87 years, yeah. No, we confirmed that we will actually
do
get.
that.
Yeah, let's not. We will actually get a check for each of these amounts that were approved for as each site gets completed.
Are there any questions?
So on the
board?
back page, the optional pricing, there's a excess wire mold will be used to cover station cabling in the gym. I don't want to get too techie. Rex 4, X, Hubble, IDF, are we,
Yes,
so that's all included?
yes.
Okay.
They're the ones who actually did our fiber as well.
Great.
So
they
it's,
know us.
it's going to fit along with what we had before. Also, we don't have to do alt-ed because alt-ed is being built to modern spec, so.
So Wendy, I'm just confirming, because I didn't hear what you said about you have COVID funding that will cover the expense?
Well, we used COVID funding to purchase 1,000 Chromebooks, and then the Emergency Connectivity Fund came out through E-rate and said that we will pay for not consumables, but for stuff, not just infrastructure. So we put in an application to get reimbursed for those 1,000 Chromebooks, and that was approved actually just this week. So, and it's almost exactly the amount of our responsibility for this should we choose to do it. So
Yeah,
we
it's good
wouldn't,
timing.
we're using other people's money for both things.
It was meant to be.
That's great. So no general fund, no hit to the general fund?
No hit to the general fund.
And that's really a testament to Ari and Wendy, so kudos to
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Paying attention, and I think, had we not done the big push before, we would have really floundered during distant learning. So I just don't think we're getting away from technology, so I think that we have to invest in it now, especially if we have the dollars.
And just because Ari's here, I really would like to thank him publicly. When I walk around and see what's in our classrooms because of COVID. Those TVs have been a godsend. The Chromebooks that kids are using are a godsend. I watched the kindergarten class take out their Chromebooks, put it on their desk, bloop, bloop, bloop. And the touchscreen that the kids have for all of our kindergartners, all those things. I mean, so thank you for the vision, Ari, and thank you for what you're doing for our district, because it is not going unnoticed by any means. So, good job.
Very well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And our meetings run very well with our setup and our tech guy in the back.
Thank you, Nate.
Yes. So do I have a
Nate's
motion for
awesome.
10.8?
I'll make the motion to approve item 10.8, district-wide Ethernet cabling project.
In a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Matson,
Yes.
President Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Makala,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
So it is 7:46 and we need to take a 5-minute break. Any objections?
Too bad.
Okay. Sorry, folks, and this is a good exit. Okay, so thank you for the break. 7:51 or 7:53, we'll return. And we are to 10.9, the Audit Services Award for 2022 to 2024.
Okay, so our last 3-year contract with Christy White is just been completed. And so on behalf of all of the districts, the county sent out, I think, 8 requests for proposals to different firms that do school district audits. They actually only received 2 responses, which was very interesting. And even though this one, the Christy White response was slightly higher than the other one received, I would respectfully request that we continue with them. I know we've been with them for some years, but part of a CPA firm's protocols now is that their audit team rotates. So that means you actually have a separate set of people working on the audit. And my reasoning for that is with all of the craziness going on fiscally in our world, both the business department and at the sites, keeping the same protocols in place for everyone, it will be very helpful. I mean, all of the sites get kind of bombarded with requests for information, and now they're kind of used to how this firm asks for things and what they actually have to put together. And if we have another firm coming in doing everything completely different, it's going to send people into a tailspin because it's just a little overwhelming. The other thing that is, to I think most of us, is very helpful is Christy White is planning on continuing to do most of their work virtually, which is lovely. Means we don't have 3 or 4 people going in and out of the office, asking for questions, asking for things constantly for 3 or 4 days. They have a portal that they submit requests for documentation. We upload it in, the sites upload their attendance information in there, and it all gets handled. They respond if they have another question, and it's been a less disruptive process. And again, given all of the craziness with the COVID funds and all of the different resources and trying to keep that all straight, for us, it would be very beneficial to stay with the same firm. At least we know the protocols going in.
Any questions from the board?
Good.
I just was gonna ask about why you wanted to go with the more expensive one, but sounds logical. Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a slight price difference, but it will save way more than that in our staff time.
Yeah, that's what
to you know, like I said, I'll be able to send the site secretaries a list of what they need to do and the questionnaires they need to fill out, and they'll know how to do them. You know, they're not going to have to learn all over again. I mean, they've been learning all over again for the past 2 years, and it's been pretty hard on all of them, and we have some new ones too, that this has all been very difficult. So being able to have that, at least a little bit of familiarity with the expectation for what they have to put together will be, I think, much welcomed.
So I noticed on the list they quote Mendocino's bond measure, but we don't need to do our bond measure separately.
Yes, actually, they are just finishing our first one, so that's probably why they didn't list it, because they haven't completed it yet.
Gotcha.
I just sent them the last few documents that they requested for
So is that, because I don't see that on the list?
It's a separate engagement.
Ah, okay.
Oh, that's right. And we
But
paid
they're
for
the
it.
ones-
It's a completely
Yeah,
separate
And we
engagement, yeah.
budgeted for that, because I remember
Got it.
asking about
Right.
that, yeah.
And so you don't recommend switching firms every 5, 10 years?
If the same team came in every single year, but the lead this past 3 years, he emailed me, said, well, it's been wonderful working with you. I hope we get to see you someday. And I said, where are you going? I thought he was leaving. And he said, no. He said, we have to switch teams every few years. So for the same reason that they recommend that you look outside, for every 6 years to consider a different direction.
Did that answer your question? Yeah, I feel more comfortable sticking with the same company as well for that reason, that they switch, because different set of eyes, we're all different people, and I know that that just shows the integrity of that company. And then the uploading and having it be more virtual and simplify staff time sounds like a positive. So if there is no public comment and there are no further questions, may I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the proposed audit service award for 22 through 24.
In a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And the next item on the agenda is second interim report and certification.
Okay. So, you're kind of used to looking at these formats now. One thing I added into here that I hadn't done for a couple of years was in addition to the multi-year projection with the assumptions, I added the comparables from first interim to second interim. And those, you can see looking at them that things haven't changed a whole lot. One thing that did increase was, I think we already had a fairly good idea what the COLA was going to be at first interim, but the most of the changes from first to second were just a clearer idea of what some of our allocations were and some of the resources, and then a better idea of budgeting out some of the COVID resources. So we have more of that identified at second interim than we did at first. And looking at the multi-year with the assumptions, I don't know if you have any questions, but you can see how, especially our LCFF funding, when you look at this year, the total is $20,900,000, and next year it's $20,367,000. So it's going down by $600,000. The only reason it's not going down more is because of the additional amounts they put in the concentration grant. And the reason it's going down is because our enrollment hasn't come back the way we were hoping, and because we can no longer rely on the held harmless ADA of 1711. So we're looking at, the other thing that's beneficial is it's kind of a rolling 3-year average. So you don't hit the cliff and go boom, you kind of step down gradually. So, I think Chief Nolte took your bottle. Yes, he came back in, and so we said, is this yours? He said, no, it was yours, so he has it. Okay.
And to the public, we had a water bottle that was left
Yeah.
in the
Lost and
audience.
found, and the chief.
That's right, they couldn't see him come in, could they? Anyway, I did a quick little figuring, and if we had if we got 100 of those kids back, it would mean $1.6 million over the next 2 years. So we are taking a hit. It's not going to slap us in the face all at once. It's going to take a couple of years to do that. So that's the biggest kind of up in the air thing. The other things are we're spending down the COVID relief money. Some of it will be completed in the third year out. It all has to be done by then, so there won't be any of that left. So we'll get back to something that is a little more normal to look at, because some of these big numbers are, you know, you look at what you're spending and so, wait a minute, why are we spending that much there? But it's just using up most of that. And what we'll also have to look at after that third year is what programs are doing well enough to try to find a way to continue. We will likely have to make some changes to some of them, because I don't know that we'll be able to continue to afford everything we're doing now with the COVID money that we have. But so we'll have to pick and choose the things that have been most successful in our learning loss mitigation. The other highlights here, there's not anything else really surprising. There are a few things that have already changed since we did this. For instance, Title I, we found out, is actually going to be reduced. We're not quite sure why, but we're losing 4.5% of that this year. So that'll change the number slightly, but I don't think we had it all budgeted out anyway, so I don't think it's going to impact anything we want to do this year. And a couple of other things are kind of changing constantly, so you know, we never really know where they are. We have a better picture at second interim of where our actual salary and benefits are going to end up for the year, positions that we aren't going to fill, positions that we have filled, so those are settling in. And so now we just wait for the May revise and see where things are going. There is talk about a somewhat higher COLA. We'll see if that comes to fruition. We have, right now it's at 5.33%. Everybody's saying that there's a lot of money out there in the state level, but there are also a lot of people with their hands out saying, we want to do this, we want to do that. There's talk about trying to fund required transportation. If so, that money's got to come from somewhere. There are a lot of other projects. Some people want to increase the base of the LCFF funding rather than increasing the COLA, so that's a possibility. They're talking about switching to an enrollment-based funding rather than an ADA-based funding, so that's going to cost something. So it just kind of depends on where everything lands in May, and I'm going to throw out a guess here that this is going to be one of those years where they'll pass something in June because they have to get paid, and then they'll change it again in July and August. I don't know that they'll completely come to a consensus on all of this stuff, a final consensus in June. I'll be very surprised if that happens. So I'm figuring on having to do an amendment in August. So much fun. So I don't know what other questions you might have. There are a few other, some of the tidbits out of the common message. We know that there's the TK planning grant. We don't know exactly how much that is yet. The school kitchen upgrades grant, we know we're going to get at least $75,000, but we haven't gotten any complete notification on that, so it's not included in here yet because we don't know exactly how much it is, when it's coming, or anything. And then the A to G grant, we did finally get an updated dollar amount, but again, the reporting is still TBD on that, but we're going to discuss it as part of the first step in that. The reserve cap, you've probably been hearing about that, how that's going to kick in, that you can't have more than 10%. Well, we're exempt from that because we're under 2,500. So we do not have to abide by that. The thing that you could do, were we to have to abide by that, would be to commit those funds for some reason. And that's a way, kind of not around that, but it's a way to mitigate it. And the other not so good news is that STRS is going from 16.92% to 19.1%, and PERS is going from 22.91 to 26.1. There has been some talk about alleviating the PERS increase this year, and again, if that happens, the money has to come from somewhere. That's why the talk about the COLA being massive, I'm tempering my enthusiasm for that a little bit just because of all the other things that are going on. So, did you have any questions, particular questions?
Any questions?
How's our reserve?
It's just fine.
Great.
I don't know if you noticed, but in the out years, I have increased I have added some contributions to the reserve to maintain the 6%. So that's budgeted in here for the second and third years. I think we're okay at the end of this year. Might have to plunk a little bit in there, but nothing significant. But in years 2 and 3, I do have a transfer in there budgeted.
And is that, with everything that's going on budget-wise, is that still a comfortable number for you?
It's never really a comfortable number.
You know, for all of the years I have wanted anything, I am so thrilled to have 6% that I'm going to say, yes, I'm comfortable. It's so much nicer to have it there than not. Because the county's going to send us a letter because you can see we're deficit spending in the out years. They're going to say you're deficit spending by this much money over the next 2 years. Well, yes, we know. But we also know that there are some expenses that we have budgeted in there that aren't going to happen. We haven't been able to hire a speech language therapist for years, but we have it in the budget because we're planning to spend it if we could find somebody. And there are multiple things like that we know aren't going to happen. What I'm struggling with a little bit, to be honest, is trying to anticipate costs of certain things like utilities, because we haven't had a normal
Fuel.
year for a couple of years. So I know it's going up. I can't quite get my hands around how much of that is because we're back full-time and how much of it is because of cost escalation in general. So, that's kind of a little bit of a wild card, those kinds of costs. We know that materials costs, paper, food, everything else is going up quite a bit. And I know Pilar is doing her darndest to keep a lid on it, but she just doesn't have any control over some of those costs. So it's going to be a little challenging looking at some of those things for the next year, and hope that things settle down a little bit and get back to something that makes it a little bit easier to project than what we're looking at right now.
And I just want to remind the board, when I first started working with Wendy 6 years ago, we went into a qualified budget.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember looking at all of you and saying, we will never do that again. What's great about having the 6% reserve is that it allows us to tell the county, we know we're deficit spending, we do have this reserve. If the sky falls out, we have this to rely on. I would also tell you that there are resolutions that boards have passed if you want to increase that reserve with the uncertainty in our economy. And I know that, and Wendy and I haven't discussed this, but I'm going to say it out loud, looking at some kind of resolution where you take a certain percentage of what falls through the cracks at the end of the year in the ending balance and putting that into the reserve so that it's not impacted in a way that that hurts the overall budget. So I am really proud of Wendy. I know that sounds belittling, but I don't mean it that way. For us to be able to have the reserve that we have in the 6 years of being together and recognizing that it puts us in a fiscally sound place to be able to defend to the county. Yes, we know we're deficit spending, but we do have this. Puts us in a really good position when it comes to budgeting and trying to make those guesses for an uncertain future. Because in truth, no one would have guessed 2 years ago that after the pandemic, we would be looking at a big COLA, right? Or big increases.
Right.
So, but the bottom's going to fall out at some point. So just being prepared for that is something that we need to think about long term.
Well, and what I've been hearing and listening is that the state budget and how they word things, and they might relieve us of our pension, but they're going to use Prop 98 funds. Use our own money, which would be for base funding. That's like our big bank and there's so much money that they think they could double the COLA, but will they? And then they're totally not even thinking about the enrollment versus ADA because there's just too many kinks in it. It's not equitable across every size district. So they're thinking of maybe going back to 1920 numbers. Well, that's lower than what we've been That may not help us. I mean, it may, but for.
1920 would help us,
1920 would
would be
help us a lot,
fabulous.
but it's not as, if you look at the numbers here, it's a little bit short, but it'd be a heck of a lot better than 1,500 or whatever
So,
we're at.
just to
So-
make it really clear, in the state of California, you have a large number of districts who are laying off this
Yeah.
season, who are having board meetings right now for massive layoffs because
School
of the
closures.
reduction in enrollment.
Mhm.
We have lost 146 students in the last 2 years. We made a calculated bet last year that we were going to get half of the 126 students that we lost the first year from COVID. That was a bad bet because we lost an additional 20 students. So as of right now, we're down 146 students from where we were in 1920. I hope we don't lose more. But when you're looking at our second interim and you're looking at where we are fiscally, we're in good shape. Thank you, Wendy. But it's something to think about as we move forward. Someone had made a comment to me, well, what about TK? You're adding in a whole nother grade level. We'll talk about that coming up. It's not going to be the saving grace that everyone thinks it's going to be. So just to be really clear, we have a reduction in enrollment. Not a little reduction, a significant reduction. When you consider in 1920 in October, we had 1,806 students enrolled at P1 on attendance day, and then come to P1 on attendance day of this year, it's around 1,660. That's a significant drop. It truly is more than 5%, less than 10%, but it's around 7.5%, 8% of our population. That is a big drop because that's revenue for us. So I'm just putting that out there for you as we plan into the future because it is something that we have to consider. We are hoping and knocking on a whole lot of surfaces that we are going to feel some kind of relief in this, but it would be a much better relief if we didn't have the loss in enrollment. So keep that in the back of your mind. It is a big deal.
And my only final question, the one-time money is in this, and so that looks like it's padding our numbers, really, because
Right.
we're so constrained on how we can use that. So that's why I always find the one little worksheet you do, makes it look like at the end, like, wow, we're doing really well, but I just wish they would stop giving us one-time money. If they've got the money, just give it to the base part of it so that we have, can improve our day-to-day stuff.
Right.
And so
And,
that's
and
what's
even
frustrating.
that number you can see though is going down, and some of that is because we're spending the one-time money down, and the other part of it is now in year 3, we've been squirreling away, so to speak, some of that concentration, that additional concentration money, because it's for the same purposes as much of the Corona relief funds are. So once those go away, then our deficit spending is going to increase because we're going to be using that ongoing money and using up that supplemental concentration reserve.
Right. Okay. Any other questions or any public comment before we have a motion?
Public comment?
No public comment.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
there
No,
is-
there's
there
no
is
public comment.
Okay,
I
thank you.
missed that. I thought you asked, what I heard was, does the board have a comment before I make a motion? You're all looking at me, I'm like, whoa, do you? Sorry.
Okay, so it sounds like we're ready for a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve item number 10.10, second interim report
And certification.
and certification.
And a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Makla,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
President Paley,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And the next item is Resolution 2204, Declaration of Rural Status for purposes of exemption from Senate Bill 328.
Okay, so this is something that is slated to begin July 1, okay? And we've talked about this in the district, and the difficulty is the high school. So Redwood starts at 8:20, Dana Gray starts at 8:50, the middle school starts at 8:30, and the high school starts at 8:05. I am asking you to declare us as a rural school so that we can forego these time standards. Now, you're probably thinking, it is good for high school students to start at 8:30. You are absolutely correct. If the high school is starting right now at 8:05 and gets out at 3:20, if we keep our current minutes, which we need to keep because the high school only has like, I think 56 minutes, something ridiculous, of wiggle room. So if we keep our instructional minutes the way they are, it would mean that the high school starts at 8:30 and gets out 25 minutes later, which would be 3:45. Now, in a normal world, we would say, oh, 3:45 is not so bad. The difficulty is it impacts our athletics. And that is a huge part of a high school student's life. And then it also forces our athletes who leave for games to lose much more class time. The busing also means that our kids would not leave here to go home. The Dana Gray, Redwood kids, right, would not leave here to go home until 3:45, until after the high school's picked up. So it really causes a big pickle for us because we have one set of buses. We're already short a driver. I don't see a way to do this I don't see a way for us to have these start times that are not going to significantly impact every single site. So this resolution, we can sign and say, yes, this is what we're going to do, and then we will not have to abide with those start times. And this is the majority of rural districts. Willits has already passed this resolution. So we're not alone in this. This is not something that we're doing alone in our county. Most of our rural districts have to do this because the geographical distance between our residents furthest south and furthest north. Questions?
Any questions? We've been talking about this for a few years, that it was on the horizon. That's how fast the state moves.
So
Once they pass the bill.
has anyone ever started with a blank piece of paper with start times for all the sites?
A blank piece of paper, like
Yeah.
starting fresh?
Yep.
So we looked at the start times again last year, and really the tail that wags the dog are the buses.
Right.
So when we started last year of looking at the start times, do you remember the discussion
Mhm.
at ADCO? We started with that blank slate. We actually had Redwood at one point at 8:40, and we put the middle school at 8:30. We moved the high school to 8:20, and we did a whole bunch of different configurations because there has to be a stagger in the start so that we can get kids to school, because we can't get them all to school at the same time. Barry came in and said, there's no way the bus can go here, here, and here at these times. So as we shifted those times around, we kept coming back to the biggest pickle, which was the after-school time, getting from one site to the next, and the path of travel to do that makes sense, right? Going from Redwood to Dana Gray, believe it or not, is harder. Going from the middle school to Dana Gray means you're coming up Chestnut, right? Because in Redwood, are you with me? You're pointing north, the buses. So to get them to go back to Dana Gray requires a little bit more maneuverability. And then, of course, we have all of the wonderful traffic calming devices that, sarcasm noted, that makes it difficult for our buses to travel on Chestnut. So when we looked at this, we started from ground zero, Scott, because I was naive and thought, we are going to mix it up and we're going to make it better. And we laughed because this was something that we did as administrators, and we decided, oh, we're really not going to make it better, and this is what we have, and these are the reasons for it. So the buses for us are the tail that wag the dog. We don't have a fleet. We have 6 drivers right now. That means those 6 buses have 6 different routes, and those 6 different routes carry Redwood, Dana Gray, middle school, and high school students. If all the high school students lived north of town, super simple. So that's kind of the hard part. So when we looked at trying to do the 8:30 start time for the high school, that 3:45 ending time pushed everybody back. So if we pushed Redwood back and Dana Gray back, it means that their start times would be much later. And then that makes it a pickle for bringing kids into school, because they'll be there that much sooner. So every iteration that we did in looking at this created one mess on one side of the clock. And what it came down to that became most difficult was ending the high school at such a late hour impacted transportation home for kids. I mean, for the buses not to leave here to get to Westport and the earliest they're leaving is 3:45, that's a pickle. Out Highway 20, that's a pickle. Simpson Lane, so that's where that came from. And then sports was also a big deal, so that kids were missing another 25 minutes of class. So we did look at it.
There's a lot of variables.
There are,
Right.
and as much as I thought that, you know, I was going to be the hero and have that be my legacy, I'm going to say it's never going to be.
So you also said there's 93 minutes of wiggle room for the height. What does that mean?
So
89
so
minutes?
thank you for asking. What a great question. The high school is required to meet 64,800 minutes a year of instructional time. They meet right now 64,856 minutes, I believe.
So that wasn't wiggle room per day. That was for the entire year.
That's for the entire year.
Yeah, that's all
Okay,
wiggle
so
room.
that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So for the entire year, we have 56. They meet 56 minutes more than the requirement. They meet 180 school days. So even if you shaved a minute off every day, they're going to be under the requirement. So that's not a possibility. We can't shave anything less than a minute, so they're stuck. They are at their maximum capacity. We can't shave any time off. We can always add time on, which is fantastic, but then it becomes a contract issue
Budget.
with changing a working condition.
Budget issue.
So the Redwood has the most wiggle room, actually the middle school has the most wiggle room in instructional minutes. I think they're over by like 5,000 minutes. Well, we changed it, so it might be
Yeah,
less
I
than
don't
that.
remember exactly.
Anyway, Redwood is over, I want to say, by 1,500 minutes, and Dana Gray is right at the cusp. We just made it work for them because their minutes their minutes are dependent on the highest number of minutes for the grade at the school. So the highest grade at the school is 5th. So Dana Gray is required to meet, I believe, 54,000 minutes,
I think that's
something
right,
of
yeah.
that. And they're meeting like 54,200.
Yeah, they've got about 300 extra minutes, maybe
And
not quite.
it's not that much, but the hard part is those minutes, if the kids go out to recess, those don't count as instructional minutes. So if you have an extra 10-minute recess in there, it may not be a big deal, but if it's 10 minutes for 180 days, that's 1,800 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's part of the conundrum when it comes to this about the start times and the stop times. We have to make sure that we maintain those instructional minutes and that our bell schedules reflect that.
Even the passing times.
Wow.
It gets crazy.
It just seems so wow, like
Yeah.
there's a reason.
And I know the answer to this, but I'll just ask it. There's no wiggle room in the daily schedule in the high school to have them come later and still meet the number of minutes per day.
The only way we could do it for the high school is if we extend the school day for the non-ER times and shorten the ER time. So that means lengthen out the school day on the early release Wednesday. So instead of getting out at 12:48, maybe they get out at 1:03, right? And add those minutes in. And then what you could do is then you could shorten the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday days. We have 39 early release days in Fort Bragg Unified, and that means we have 141 regular full instructional days. So when we go into looking at the minutes, we take whatever those ER days are, and we calculate the minutes, we multiply it by 39. We take the 141 regular days, right, and we do all that. The only way to get this to a place where we could start at 8:30 and shorten it up would be to manipulate that Wednesday time and then lengthen out the other days. So if we got rid of the early release time altogether and had 5 regular days, we probably could go from 8:30 to 3:30 and make it work. Don't quote me on that because I haven't done the math with it. But I will tell you that the value in the early release days is profound. We're able to do our data analysis. We're able to do so much of our PD. We're able to look at our benchmarks and our pacing plans and really look at what we are doing in the form of assessment and curriculum instruction. So I'm not willing to propose that we give that up to have an 8:30 start time, to be quite honest with you.
It's just good to kind of know what the options.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Great questions.
Because I still get not often, but people still comment about the early start for high school. So.
And the tough part is Before the early release days, I think the high school started at 8:15.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
If I
about
remember
right.
when all of us were
8:17,
teaching together, right?
Yeah.
I think it was 8:15, and we had to move it back 10 minutes in order to compensate for the early release. So I think the hard part is we fully recognize that teenagers need more sleep.
They'll just stay up later.
They really will. But I am glad that we took the middle school start time and we turned that to 8:30 because they had extra minutes to spare, so we could
Mhm.
do that. And an 8:10 start time and an 8:30 start time for middle school students, believe it or not, it's a profound difference. So I really like what we
Yeah.
did there.
Mhm.
The high school, I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah, that's rough because the elementary school, they're starting much later, which that would benefit the high schoolers, because they're usually early birds, because
Yeah.
they're told to go to sleep. And those ER days aren't going away. I mean, that's
No.
contract language, so it's not like that's not really on the table, so.
Well, and you couldn't take it away just from the high school. So if you took it away
Right.
from everybody, it would be back in the same
Yeah,
situation.
right,
so-
it's a mess.
Yeah.
So, thank you for the questions. Do we have a motion? If there is no public comment.
There
Oh.
is, oh, wait a minute.
Hang on this.
Let's see, what agenda? I have a question for
Rural status.
10.13.
That's
And
coming
we're on
up.
10:11. Okay.
Not yet.
There.
So may I have a motion for,
I'll move to approve Resolution 2204, Declaration of Rural Status for purposes of exemption from Senate Bill 328.
in a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And I won't have you read, just because we thoroughly discussed what the
Yeah.
resolution was about. Thank
Okay.
you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Mattson,
Yes.
Trustee Makala,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
and President Paoli.
Yes.
Motion
Well-
carries.
Thank you. So move on to 10.12, teacher consent form.
So this,
Single
we do
subject.
this annually for people who are, folks who are teaching just right outside of their credentialing assignments. So we have 2 teachers who are consenting to do that.
I think it's the 2 that we approved last year, so.
Yep.
Are there any questions? And if there's no public comment, may I have a motion?
I'll move to approve 10.12, the teacher consent form.
In a second?
I'll
Second.
oh,
Scott is.
I'll take
Schneider?
it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Makala,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
President Paoli,
Yes.
and Trustee Mattson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So the next one is 10.13, declaration of need for fully qualified educators, annual statement of need for 30-day substitute teaching permits and intern, pre-interns permit waivers. So we'll have it presented by staff, and then it sounds like we might have a public comment.
We have a comment from Megan Tunzi, who is our agriculture teacher. Hi, Megan. How is California agriculture teachers a college or university for an internship program in our district? So if you look on page 10 of 10 of the form, and Susie Gibson fills this out, it says, if yes, list each college or university with which you participate in an internship program. So I'm not sure why that's there. I know that we had our ag teachers doing the mentorship, but I think that's a mistake.
Does this have a date that we have to have it done by?
Well, I think what you can do is you can approve it with striking
Pending,
California
yeah.
agriculture teachers. Thank you, Megan, for catching that.
Okay, and so this is something that we do annually as well.
You don't think it has to have something else in its place?
I'll check it tomorrow. I don't think
This is
so.
for 22, 23.
I think this potentially came from that our two new ag teachers are in a mentor program. And I think that's what Susie was looking at. They're in a mentor program through
Induction,
through
through
the
NCSOE.
right, through
Okay.
the induction program, but that's
Right.
different than an internship program.
Right.
So I think that's what Susie was looking at. She was looking at, and it's through which county office? Is it
Sonoma.
Sonoma?
So it's North Coast School of
So,
Education.
I think that's what she was probably looking at.
Yeah.
So the California agriculture teachers, that can be removed. I think there was a confusion there. And I, to be quite honest with you, did not look at this form.
Okay, so may we have the motion with the amendment?
Okay, I will move to approve item 10.13 with the change to the agriculture teacher interns.
In a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Makla,
Yes.
President Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Matson,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
and Trustee Schneider.
Yes.
The motion
Okay.
carries.
Very good, thank you. So we move on to our information and discussion item of the or the agenda. 11.1 is FBUSD Transitional Kindergarten.
So beginning next year, the TK program is going to be expanding until we get to the year 25-26 school year, when transitional kindergarten will be open to every student who turns 4 years old by September 1. So I wanted to show you how this is going to roll out over the next 4 years so that you understand what's happening with us as a district. So when we talk about transitional kindergarten and adding in this program, it adds in a whole nother grade level. Okay, what we're looking at right now at Redwood is if we kept our student numbers, and traditionally each class is between 120 to 150 kids. Right now, the current, I want to say it's the current 7th grade class at Fort Bragg Middle School is quite large, and I think they're at 160 students. Okay, we don't have another class like that for quite some time. Most classes are average anywhere from 120, 130s. Anything above the 130s is we call that a pretty large class. So if I tell you that, okay, we're gonna do TK, we're gonna add in a whole nother grade level, all 4-year-olds. Let's be really clear, this many. And we look at 120 kids. Do we have 5 or 6 additional classrooms to house all these kids within the next 4 years? Okay, the answer to that is no. Do we have enough classrooms at Redwood if we moved 2nd grade to Dana Gray? Yes. Okay, but that's what it would take. With the bond, we are hoping to construct 3 new classrooms in addition to the preschool rooms that we're doing right now. In the 3rd phase, those 3 new classrooms at Redwood are going to come into play. What's difficult for us is we have a real facility issue at Redwood. There is no way next year that we could offer TK as we're offering it right now and have space for it. TK as we're offering it right now is from 8:20 to 12:30 every day. We don't have the space for that. If we expand TK to include students who turn 5 by February 2nd, we're expanding TK another couple of months. Right now, TK, you can enroll in TK this year if you turned 5 between September 1 and December 1. Okay, if you, so now we're saying you can enroll in TK next year if you turn 5 between September 2 and February 2. So that's going to expand it. What happens then is we have to say, where are we going to put the kids? We simply don't have the space. So I met with the TK teachers, I met with the Redwood team, we talked about where are we going to put the kids. So what we can do is we can create a morning session and an afternoon session. TK, the minimum hours that the minimum minutes TK can meet is 180 minutes per day. So no ER time, it's just 180 minutes. We have to serve at least 1 meal, And if that meal is served in the classroom with the certificated teacher, meal time can count towards that 180 minutes. So that's what we plan on doing. We don't want our 4-year-olds in the cafeteria. The seats are too big for them typically. It's them balancing their tray and getting to a table. We can transition them into the cafeteria at the end of the year when they're all 5, right? But for right now, it's really important for them to eat with their teacher, keep them in a self-contained setting. Maureen Smith and Angie Daniels are doing a great job with looking at curriculum and really designing a play-based a play-based model for TK as we move forward. I will tell you that I'm thrilled with this model because we are watching some of our kiddos who are really struggling with school, and a 3-hour play-based model, we're going to be able to have more kids who are successful. We're also worried about potty training. You know, if a kiddo is not yet 5, that's something real. And once we get to this model that you have to be 4 years old by September 1, it means that we're going to have 3-year-olds. Like, for instance, my son Mitchell, his birthday is August 14th, right? So if we started school before that, he would be 3 getting ready to turn 4, okay? So think about that. A 3-year-old getting ready to turn 4 is 100% different than a 4-year-old getting ready to turn 5. So we know we're going to have a wide range of developmental levels. The 3-hour school day makes the most sense for all of us right now because we can then have 2 classes in the same class, right? We can hold 2 sessions in the same class. You see the times there, it gives us 20 minutes to change over between the AM and the PM session. We still kept it at 2:30 so that all the teachers are out at 2:30 so that we can honor prep time and the teachers can work together daily. It doesn't account for the ER time, but that's okay. We got to give it up somewhere. So I'm bringing this to you as a discussion because if I'm a mama and my baby turns 5 on January 31st and I want my child in the TK program, I need to have a heads up early. Oh, wait a minute, this is not full day. This is not 8:30 to 12:30 like we're doing it now. It's either going to be 8:10 to 11:10 or it's going to be 11:30 to 2:30. Now, the biggest pickle for us is we're going to have to figure out where we put people. If we only have enough kids to do 2 TK classrooms, then we might have the space to just make them both AM programs. The original idea behind our TK program still holds, that we want teachers to teach TK and then have them available in the afternoon for kindergarten intervention or first grade intervention, but we're not going to be looking at any intervention until after we get through the first trimester. Because we're hoping that we can have our morning session and our afternoon session teacher kind of team teaching together to try and work and help kids and figure out that piece. The ratio right now, just so that you're in tune with the information, for next year, CDE says that the ratio in a TK class is 1 to 12, can be 1 to 12. Means 1 adult for every 12 kids. So if we have 1 teacher and we have 20 kids, we'll have to hire an aide to be in that class. We are preparing at this point that every TK class will have at least 1 aide. We're working with FBDTA right now to bargain the language for TK so that we can have some flexibility with that. Let me back up. So next year it's 1 to 12. We're not suggesting that we maintain a 1 to 12 average because after next year, that ratio goes away. It's either 1 to 10 or 1 to 8. So we're just jumping into 1 to 10 or 1 to 8 right now because we kind of need to have that extra adult in the room if we have a potty accident or anything like that. So with that, this is our draft proposal to you about the times that we'd like to hold for TK. We can hold 2 sessions in the same classroom, which is easier for us on materials, manipulatives. For a play-based model, it's toys, blocks, and whatnot. So what are your questions?
Yep. Anyone have questions?
20 minutes seems like a pretty quick turnaround. No concerns there.
It used to be 15, and we lengthened it.
Okay.
So originally, our first thought was to go 8:15 to 11:15, and then we talked about it a little bit more, and said, you know, we need to lengthen that out a little bit. The teacher workday begins at 8 o'clock, so we
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
want
more
to.
thinking like parents that are late to pick up their kids or other parents that are early to drop them off, and how much chaos is there going to be in that 20 minutes, and do you need extra people to watch? I don't know.
I think right now, to be quite honest with you, the parents do a pretty great job with TK. We
Okay.
very rarely have parents who are not there to pick up their kids at 12:30, so we're not too worried about that. I think it'll be okay.
Okay.
And if,
And
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was
And
gonna say, if not, we could probably offer them to go to the afternoon side.
And then why 1 to 10 or 1 to 8? Where's the difference come in?
It comes in with class size. So we know that if we say that our class size maximum is 24, right? Then if we have 24 kids in the room, then we have to do 1 to 8.
Got it.
Okay, because if it's 1 to 10, we still have to do 1 to 8. Because if you have more than 20 kids in a class, in a 1 to 10 ratio, you still have to have another adult.
Right. It's just funny the state's offering you 2 different numbers.
Well, and the reason for that is so that you can have a class of 19 and have 1 teacher and 1 aide. And you could also have a class of 23 and have 1 teacher and 2 aides. So they're letting you adopt whichever model you want. For us, I would like, what we propose to FPDTA is that we have some flexibility with that. So we want to adopt both, look at the numbers that we have and decide how we distribute it.
Best.
Makes sense.
Okay, Kathy,
Yeah,
you had a
yeah.
question.
I just wanted to make sure the public, if I remember correctly, there's no TK transportation.
There is no TK transportation.
Okay, I just want to make sure the public is going to remember that, as
And
this is all.
We
Especially
don't.
the little
Yeah.
ones.
We won't have the buses available to, like on Wednesday, we wouldn't have the buses be able to go out and come back.
And
Yeah,
so the
mobility
teachers
issue.
teaching the afternoon wouldn't have ER day? I mean, they wouldn't participate?
Correct. So that's one of the things that we talked about, that if the teachers team taught together, they could alternate that ER time. If it was something, hugely important, we could look at a substitute teacher for that
Mhm.
ER time. But them getting out at 2:30, they would really miss 1 hour of that ER time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's some flexibility with this.
Planning.
And what I've said to Maureen Smith and Angie Daniels is, this is a work in progress. When we get into October and we're all sweating like, man, we didn't think of that. Okay, let's come in and have a discussion about it, because if something's not working, we need to address it now, not later. So I absolutely believe we're gonna need some flexibility as we go through this next year. With these times though, I truly believe that we can get through some of the hurdles, and I love the fact of offering a 3-day program for some of our youngest kiddos. I think they have a real chance for success if they're struggling. So
3 hour.
3 hours.
3 hours, yeah, I'm all
Not
3
3
days.
days.
That's
3
what I
hours.
was
Did I
I
say
didn't
day?
read.
No, no,
I
no,
thought this
3
was
hours,
5 days a
sorry.
week.
Hour.
Yeah, I was thinking, I didn't read that. Okay, very good, thank you.
So it's on discussion. It'll come to action next month. We wanted to get this out and available to the public so that parents could see what we're thinking about and what we're talking about, and then collect public comment. But, before you take action, the biggest barrier we have right now in Fort Bragg Unified is we simply do not have the space.
Yeah, the land, the real estate.
We
Yeah.
don't have it.
So before we move on to the next item, is there any public comment on TK?
I'll look. There is no public comment.
So we'll move on to 11.2, A to G Completion Improvement Grant that you just found out about.
So we have to present a plan to you prior to April 1st. And so this is a plan. It doesn't mean that we can't edit the plan or modify the plan, but we have to present something to you before April 1st. So we are memorializing this in the board minutes to show that we are presenting something to you before April 1st. I don't even think they have to take action on it.
Not yet.
Okay.
And we don't know when that's still TBD. But it'll be a one-time lump sum that we will be able to use through June of 2026.
And so it looks like they want to ensure community and stakeholder input, but this was posted with our agenda.
And we've been talking about it, I think we mentioned it at the site council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have it on the agenda now for public comment. We can bring it up again at the high school site council meetings. This is the preliminary plan. What I have to tell you that I'm excited for is that when we talked about this, we really looked at what are the current barriers and what can we do to be creative. And I will tell you, when we talked about the creativity part, we were really looking at different options on how we can provide support to students. So you have in here our best guesses on this, and you'll see some college field trips on there. One of the things that we felt strongly about, whether it's paid through this or supplemental and concentration, is that some kids they've never visited a college. And when we limited college trips to only Avid kids, or to our Anchor kids, or to our Mesa kids, and we don't open it up to the entire grade level, kids can't see themselves on a college until they go to a college. And when we sat down and discussed how we were going to do those trips, we talked about geography and how we could get there and back in a day. And then doing it in a way where, like, for instance, if all the freshmen are going to go to Cal Poly Humboldt and College of the Redwoods, we do that over a week, so that we only take 30 kids at a time instead of taking 120 kids at a time. Because if you've ever been on a college trip with the high school, taking one bus of kids is manageable. Taking 4 buses of kids,
That'd
not
be
manageable.
crazy.
And we don't have the drivers, right? We still have to bring kids home at the end of the day. So we really came up with ways and got very creative on how, over the course of 4 weeks in the fall, all the freshmen could go 1 week, all the sophomores could go the following week, and then the juniors and then the seniors, or in some iteration of that, and really talked about, okay, if all of the teachers know that one group of kids is going to be gone in one of these 4 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
That as a teacher, you could plan that you were only going to, you're going to plan 3 days worth of stuff, right? And then one day, you know, you're going to miss some kids. So I think this has huge potential. I'm excited more about the trips than anything, to be quite honest with you. But again, getting creative. So you see the options in there: expanding the dual enrollment for Spanish, expanding on-campus tutoring for Algebra 2 and chemistry, looking at some other physical science lab that meets the DEET requirement. Because right now, the only physical science class that we have on Fort Bragg High School campus that meets the D requirement for a physical science lab is either chemistry or AP Environmental Science.
Yeah, ouch.
Okay,
So,
but
Here we go,
since you-
counselor.
Yeah, when is that? Yeah.
I know that there's been a lot of discussion around apes lately, and I just want to make sure that people continue to advocate for the middle kid. And please make sure that class stays on the list, and finding other options, because kids succeeding in physics is a very small percentage, and the percentage of kids that need that are pretty small in our student population. And almost any kid can apply apes to something in their life. And I just think that
And
more,
APES is the AP Environmental Science class.
it's, I just, you know, and our kids, and remember that our kids are not judged against our course offerings if it's not there. So if we don't have physics, a kid can't get marked against not having physics. And I love
Once you offer
the
it, then-
rotation we used to do, but I worry that if we're having kids having a hard time getting through A through G completion, you know, that is a class that really, it's a wide variety of kids are successful in, and I just don't want to see it get lost long term.
Well, and I have to tell
I just have to
you,
go on the record.
I want to echo yes, amen. But I also want to say that one of the things that I talked to the high school counselors about was the current physical science class that we offer. That is, happens either before biology for a lot of our general ed, for a lot of our middle kids. And can we make that physical science class meet the D requirement, and what do we need to do that? Because that would solve a lot of problems too, if the physical science could be captured in that first physical science class and the bio class, and what do we need to do to make it a lab that would pass A to G? So we're looking at that right now, because that to me would solve the problem, and you could still swap physics with AP environmental science. But I think for that middle kid, we need to find a physical science class that they can be successful in that meets the D requirement if they don't want to go into chemistry, or don't want to go into AP environmental, or don't want to do physics. So that's the other conversation that we're having right now, because we don't want to lose that middle kid.
And the only question I had, in the regular school day, when would there be support for students for chemistry or Algebra 2? Would that be during like a support class? Like or how would that work during
it's
the
all
day?
about how you name it and market it, right?
Gotcha.
Because when we call it a
We
support
tried it.
class, we've tried it every single
chemistry
way.
over 2, yeah.
We tried doing chemistry over 2 years. We tried doing a whole myriad of things. And, we try something, and if we see even an inkling of some kind of success, we'll try it for another year. If it becomes a dismal failure in the very beginning, we're like, okay, there's no point in trying to beat a dead horse, right? So one of the things that we're talking about with Algebra 2 and chemistry is, can we offer some kind of on-campus tutorial? And really call it that, because that's what it is. Instead of a support, hey, you're going to do your homework, getting the right kind of teacher in there to say, I'm going to give you a tutorial on Algebra 2 and chemistry as you're taking Algebra 2 and chemistry.
Yeah.
So that it's not a math support class that is trying to shore up your math skills so that you're going to be successful.
Right.
It is a true blown tutorial, and you can run small group instruction. You can use paper tutoring during that time while the teacher is working with people who need certain specific skill needs for the current lesson, but it's keeping those kids on board.
Yeah, that would be helpful. And so that would be an elective per se?
Per se.
Yeah.
So we're looking at different things.
That would- yeah,
The high school counselors are in the middle of trying to create a master schedule right now and looking at who is asking for those classes. They already did course requests, so this would be something a little bit, that we'd have to kind of go in and see who's in there, what their grade history is,
Right.
and then encourage them. You really don't want to do that class, do you? You want to do this one.
And I meant to email you, and I forgot. And Mark Boley, sorry, I'm going to mention this, but has the discussion of academies talked at all?
Oh, about creating academies at the school?
Well, we have Anchor Academy, but like doing an academy for kids, to have that support piece in there for the A through G kids.
So we jumped in with TRIO. TRIO is targeting 200 kids in grades 6 through 12 to provide more academic support to meet A to Gs. We are trying to expand AVID so that AVID.
Well, I was thinking.
Like pods?
Yeah, something so that there wasn't a label on a class, there wasn't a, anyway.
Well, it's kind of like, when you take a science class, you have a lab. So this is kind of like the lab with chemistry.
Because we've tried,
labeling it
Yeah.
differently.
different kids now, but that was something I just thought, which makes a master schedule a nightmare. I know, but, anyway, I was just thinking if you put those kids together in a house or whatever you want to call them, a
Right.
pod or whatever, and then, anyway, that was just a thought I meant to email somebody about, and not bring it up on national
Well,
TV, but.
National TV, that
Wow.
would be us.
I hope we're not on national TV.
And just to give you an idea about national TV, we have 7 people watching right now. It's pretty exciting. It was 4 a little bit, so we almost doubled our capacity here. Thank you, Charlie
Parents
boys.
math.
Worried about the TK.
Okay, so no public comment on this?
I
Otherwise,
just want
it's
to
No.
say,
information and
I'm
discussion?
really happy to see these college trips because that's what inspires a lot of kids that are kind of on the bubble, and then they see a campus and they see
Well,
the other
exactly.
kids, and you have such a nice mix of, City College and Cal Poly and a UC and so forth, so. And Santa Rosa Junior College is
They're all fun.
fabulous.
Yeah, they're all fun to
I
visit.
sat down with Bruce Triplett, Jamie Alexander, Mark Boley, and Tomas Sanchez, and the 5 of us talked about being really targeted on where to go. AVID is doing this right now. This is kind of the AVID list, to be honest with you. But they wanted to make sure that there was a private university. They wanted to make sure that there was JCs, a UC. I don't know how that CSU Sacramento, UC Davis, and Sac City College are going to happen in one day. Sac City might get released. because we have SRJC and College of the Redwoods. We could do SAC and Davis in the same day, but adding in that third one might be a little tricky.
Right.
But I like the regions also that they chose.
I do want Mendocino College to know, or people to know, we don't ignore them because
Oh,
all
no,
of
no.
our fifth graders go.
So
right?
Mendocino College is reserved for the fifth graders, the sixth, seventh, and we were talking about doing Mendocino College classes through the middle school and making that all the way up through the middle school. And Mendocino College comes to us. So the other thing that we do is we take the kids to our Mendocino College campus here in Fort Bragg. So I don't want Mendocino College to feel like they are missing from this at all.
No,
They are
or parents
intertwined.
to think we don't think
No,
they're great. They're awesome.
we do more with Mendocino College. We do more with Mendocino College than we do with any of these. These are trips.
Right.
So I am thrilled with Mendocino College, and I could talk more about that at another time.
Yeah.
But this is for like getting on a bus and being gone for the day.
Exactly.
Okay, so the next and last discussion item is board policy, administrative regulation, and board bylaw updates, 11.3, the before and after school programs.
So we have not touched the extended learning opportunity the ELO, ELOP, I think is what we call it. We haven't touched our ELOP dollars. I attended an AXA meeting last week, and they made it very clear that this money is not going away. But the rules for this money continue to change. They have not stayed the same in the last 6 months. They have changed multiple times. When the money was introduced, Wendy and I have been incredibly nervous about this. We have a lot of money slated in ELOP money, but the problem is there are a ton of regulations. And what we were told in the beginning is that you have to do this, and if you don't, we're going to take the money back. Well, okay, let's talk about this. 50% of our K-6 kids have to be enrolled. Okay, that's a lot of children, almost 800. Okay, so 400 have to be enrolled. Right now in our after-school programs, we have about 85, 86 to 100 kids in our heyday. Could we fit more? Sure, we could fit more because we had a lot of parents who really wanted that. We don't have the staff.
Yeah.
Like we are short-staffed right now. I don't know what to do. So that concerns me, is the staffing. So that's number one. The second thing is that it has to be a 9-hour day. Okay? And so that negates any FBUSD employee. That means that we have to partner with MCRPD because we can't have overtime every day. So that's number two. Number three, you have to offer it for 30 additional days outside of the instructional days. Now, we do 20 days of summer school, that would count, but it has to be a 9-hour day.
Wow.
And we have to do an additional 10 because we only do summer school for 20, right? So we could do 5 days of the February break, 5 days of spring break, and that could count. Now, it means the kids have to be enrolled. They don't have to show up, okay? But they have to be enrolled. So we're talking with all these people about how we get this to work, and I have to tell you, I got a knot in the pit of my stomach.
That's like teaching at the test. Just
Yeah.
get them to enroll. And then
Just get them to enroll and you have to. So they keep saying, no. And I'm telling you, the legislature is 100% behind this. That they are fully on board with this, that they want every district to do it. They are going to make it mandatory. And so what the majority of us are doing, and I'll be really honest with you, Willits and us have not touched it. And we've said, we need to wait. So Ukiah has a full-blown after-school program because they partner with the city of Ukiah, who run their after-school program, and they've had
9 hours.
they've had 9 hours, and they've had like 50% of their kids enrolled in already. So this was easy for them, right? Okay, for us, we have to remember that that redwood curtain that we call Highway 20 really impacts our ability for staffing, to be quite honest with you. We can't garner people from different zip codes. I mean, if we're lucky, we'll get a few people from Mendo. Well, woo! You know? But the reality is that we have a very small staffing pool. So I don't know how to pull this off, to be quite honest with you. When we had the conversation with Michael Funk, they said, we'll offer more money. I'm Like, okay. I mean, who?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very difficult for us right now. I'm stuttering because I am so nervous about this. It is not going away. The legislature made it really clear. This is one of their pet projects. It's not going to go away. I have no idea how we're going to pull this off in Fort Bragg Unified.
So what happens if we don't?
We haven't touched the money, then we give it back. So that's why we haven't touched the money. Because, you know, Beth Pine is a firm believer in after-school programs. She is our champion. I adore her. She has made things work. I have said this to her and Monique Wooden. If there's any inkling of a chance that CDE is going to come at us 3 years from now and say, you need to give that $500,000 back, guess what? My recommendation to you is don't touch it. That's a lot of money to have to give back once you've already spent some of it, right? So this makes both of us incredibly nervous. I love the idea behind it. I love that it would offer so much childcare to our community. I don't know who we're going to get to work it. I don't know how we're going to offer a 9-hour day. I don't know how we're going to offer those 30 additional days. This one has me concerned. And really, if we had a stronger workforce, to be honest with you, if we had more staffing that we could rely on, I would be willing to take a chance and say, let's do it. That the 9-hour day could be potentially parsed out with MCRPD, that we offer 9 hours worth of like enrichment courses. And if we don't get kids enrolled in it, to take it, but we had the kids enrolled in the program. It doesn't mean that they have to attend every day. They just have to be enrolled in the program. You know, I could get by some of that stuff. Until we get by the staffing issue, I don't know how to do anything else. And MCRPD pays a better wage than FBUSD, and that's still not working. And someone said, well, why don't you just move it over to the FBUSD side? Then we bring in PERS and STIRS. Okay, and that's going up significantly. So anyway, there are a lot of barriers to this. I want to be able to offer this to the community. I have to tell you, it makes me incredibly nervous. I don't know how to get the workforce.
Yeah. Well, it's just sad that there's that couple of things. I mean, if they really truly want to help kids and families, they wouldn't have so many, you know, regulating rules that are hurting. Like all districts are in this, or a lot of districts are in this position. It's not just us that.
Well, and here's the honest to God's truth. If you really want to help us with staffing, then we need to pay a wage that competes with McDonald's.
Right.
That not only competes with McDonald's, but is extra, is more. That people say, oh, you know, I would rather be an instructional aide in Fort Bragg Unified than doing this. And the hard part is when we have other businesses taking away from our workforce because you will get a livable wage, that's what we're losing against right now. I see lots of our graduates who are making a ton of money in the restaurant business. How am I supposed to convince them to come and teach?
Yeah.
I mean, one of our graduates is a bartender at one of our local restaurants.
Yeah.
And a 4-year degree, makes $300 a night in just tips.
Yeah. No, there's high school students doing that.
So that's the hard part. So
Yeah.
with this, you have the board policy and the AR and how we're supposed to do it. I don't think you have a choice on adopting it or not. This is, I mean, I don't know if we can hold.
Well,
I
this is
think-
just information and discussion.
Bring it back for approval because we might as well have it in place. And it may be, I mean, I think a lot of districts around the state are having the same issue because every time I'm in a meeting that involves a lot of people, they're asking this question, you know, so it's not just us that are struggling with this. So I have to hope that the legislature will see all of these, especially small rural districts, struggling with this and relax the rules a little bit, or at least finalize them, because they have changed every month. Something different about it has been released, and so figure it out. You know, make it reasonable, and then we'll see if we can try to do it. But the way it's structured right now, there's too many questions.
It's like they didn't think through all those little moving parts. Like a certificated teacher cannot do it because they can't go 9 hours.
Well, they didn't think of that, what works in LA Unified
works in
Right.
Fort Bragg. You know, that's what
Right.
they did. They did a one-size-fits-all, and it just doesn't.
No, doesn't
And,
work.
and imagine being a teacher and you say, okay, I'll be on a time card for the after-school program. We want our teachers at their best for the core day.
Right.
Right.
So
Long day.
I can't even begin to say, yes, please get our certificated teachers to be working and teaching kids until 5:30. It's exhausting now. And I did when I was a math teacher, I think I did it 2 days a week. Because, you're a poor teacher. You do you do the thing and you get a house and you do all that good adult stuff, and it was just extra money. But more than 2 days a week, I remember being exhausted and going home to my two little ones. So I think that's hard. So you have the board policy. I think you're probably going to have to adopt it, to be quite honest with you. I need to be very clear, though, that we have some major trepidation about touching these funds at all. I don't feel comfortable with saying, well, let's just try it, because if you dip a toe into it and you start trying something, my fear is that they're going to say, well, you didn't do it fully, so pay it all back. That makes me nervous. And until someone says we're not going to do that and that's in print, then I'd be willing to come to you and say, well, let's try it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for the information. So that brings us to board reports, 12.1. Do we have any reports from board?
Oh, I can say, I
Mary?
went to the Mecca meeting. There were 4 of us. It was very lightly attended. But it was good that the 4 of us, well, they take it back. There were 5, and 4 of us were working on the job fair. So we worked a little on that. And the job fair is at Mendocino College on Friday, May 13th from 2 to 6. And it is overlapping with the ESL registration fiesta from 5 to 7. There's going to be food. There'll be resume writing help and mock interviews at the job fair. So anyway, it's coming together, and we have chamber, the new, I think it was a director. Is that what they call the person head of the chamber? A director?
I believe
Something
so.
like- whatever they are, they're new. It's Terry Silva? Terry, anyway, Swift, and she's going to be helping. So anyway, wanted to let you know that. And then I think we all attended the CSBA PACER membership meeting, legislative action training webinar for next week's legislative action meetings.
Jerry?
Just attended the board chat this morning. We have one guest who asked about the water situation that happened last week, and that was it.
That was
I went
exciting.
to a graduation at Alt Ed for,
Yes.
help me out with the name, Diana.
Justin
Justin Bowe.
He was a junior and he graduated in the first half of the year, so it was pretty amazing.
The very first mid-year graduation.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
And also went to the Coast Guard Alt Ed soccer game. I gotta tell you, that's a big field. Those poor, I mean, it looked to me like the Coast Guard folks play a lot of soccer, and the Alt Ed folks are doing pretty darn well, so I gotta hand it to them.
And they're going to play flag football next.
Oh, boy.
That's coming up.
Are they doing it in Timberwolf?
Yeah.
It's
It's a lot
way
of
to
field.
run.
Yep.
It's a lot of field.
They asked Connie if she was going to get out there and play. She's like,
Give Connie a whistle. She can officiate.
yes.
I think she was doing that. Did you have something? This is tax season. So it looks like I went to a few site councils, Redwood and high school, and then a lot of FFA. So I did an FFA 5K fun walk they did right before the winter break. And then I went to Eureka for the FFA regional award ceremony. There was 149 kids that received their state degrees, which is not like Eagle Scout. There's actually national, so they still can go up from there. So at the site council, I said that was like Eagle Scout. It's not. There's more. And then I also went to Alt Ed an exhibition, and that was really fun. It was fun to hang out with the kids. They wanted to know who I was, and they thought that I was a parent. And then when they realized I was on the school board, they actually knew who we were, which Not that we were PTA, usually they're, you know, where are the cookies, what are you selling? So that, I really enjoyed my time. And I didn't attend the legislative action prepare, but I got the webinar, so I listened to it. And then I went to the PACER meeting as well. So I think that takes us to advanced planning, suggestions for future meetings, and I'll just start with, there were 2 dates that were good for everyone, April 30th and May 21st for the board workshop. And I think if no one has any objections, I think the earlier date would be better, even though it's the day of the prom. Just because we're already kind of late for the self-evaluation. And I think everyone, maybe there's one that we still need to do the Google form, but I think the sooner the better. And we were thinking of 9 to noon, but we have some sunshine business to do. So if Superintendent Walker wanted to come like at 10, you know, like you wouldn't have to be there for, like when we're planning something for the staff appreciation or doing our like we can adjust the agenda so that if you wanted to come later, it would be okay. Yeah, we'll figure out the time. I'll talk about that agenda setting, which is Jerry and I, April 11th, I think.
And then also for advanced planning, we do need to have a special board meeting between now and April 21st. It's too long. We have some things that need to be completed. Renee did contact you today to see if you could meet for a special meeting either next Monday or next Thursday. So both are available. So I'll talk with Diana tomorrow about what day we want to do.
Okay.
Unless you want to pick it now and just go for it.
Well, I think we were thinking Monday or Thursday. So if Thursday, would it be better later in the week for you instead of going right into it?
It doesn't
So you
matter.
have to post it on Sunday then.
Right. We would probably post it. We could probably post it tomorrow, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
Or we
Okay.
could post it. I mean, if you give it to me, we can post it. So it's up to you if you want to do it Monday or Thursday. It's up to you.
What works best for you, Kathy?
Saturdays count?
Mine was the
6
time.
o'clock, 6
Oh, just the
o'clock.
time.
It's just
We
'cause
keep
I
it
have
at 6.
appointments at
What'd you
5,
say?
so.
No, just ask Scott. I'm good either one.
Thursday, I mean,
Oh, Monday's better for Nate?
It's fine with whatever you guys do. I can do Monday or Tuesday.
I think Monday might be better just to do it and we can get, but we'll also need a closed session
okay. So
item on that.
So 5:30, oh no, that's
No.
where we got, so we could do 6
I
o'clock?
mean, I don't.
I think what we
I don't-
do,
The people I, yeah.
Why don't we do closed
Just
at
do
the end?
5:30 and then.
Let's just
Well-
do 6 and
Oh, we
closed at
could,
the
we
end.
could do close
we
at the
could do
end.
closed at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's, you and I talk about that, Diana, because I
Okay.
think closed needs to be first.
Right.
Because
Okay.
we can throw something, because then there are some things that we will need to speak about in closed session that need to happen in open.
Gotcha,
So,
read out, okay.
yeah.
So we have to have it first, okay. We'll figure it out.
And you guys will talk about tennis courts at the next agenda setting meeting?
We will talk about that at agenda setting.
Great.
Yes, thank you. I have that on my list of,
Okay.
yep. Thank you. And I think that, so be checking your emails about looks like it's looking like a Monday
Okay.
for the special.
And so if we're going to do this, we'll have the agenda ready to go tomorrow. And one of us will post it on Sunday but we'll put out a
Okay.
parent square so people know that we're not doing anything fishy. And
Right.
this really is some housekeeping stuff that we need to get done and we can't wait until April 21st.
21st, because it is a ways away. And then reminders and announcements, we can just go to our, if anyone can't make one of their meetings, just email me, and then I can farm it out to people. That would be probably, yeah, that'd probably be the best than going through this, because we had a lot of good public comment, and so it brought us to our late meeting to ending. So may I have a motion if there are no other announcements?
Motion to adjourn.
At 9:15, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.